This is John Jackson Miller, and you're listening to the Star Wars Canon Podcast. May the Force be with you.
There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Star Wars Canon Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Miller, and I'm so glad you decided to join me to talk about our favorite thing in the world yet again, Star Wars. Guys, we've made it to episode 70, and we've got a lot to talk about this week, man. We were coming off a celebration, and like I said, man, a lot to talk about. But to talk about all of it, we've got a full panel this week. I'm so glad we finally got everybody back in the driver's seat. So first off, let's just go around, man. It's been a while since y'all have been on. What's going on? I've got Stephen Hall, I've got Usef Waly, which you guys all know and love, and I've got JG Kars all with us. What's going on, guys?
Nah, not much.
You guys ready to talk
So
some
great
Star
to
Wars?
be back. Yeah.
All
We've
right.
had a great week, and I feel like the excitement for Star Wars is like at an all-time high that it's been in a long time. And so couldn't miss the chance to come back and talk with you guys today.
Absolutely.
We've had the best week.
Oh God, as Star Wars fans, we're so spoiled right now.
Our chat has been blowing up like every hour on the hour.
Yeah, right. Let me make sure our stream is going correctly. If you guys are in the live chat right now, and let us know. Can you hear us all right? Because we're doing a live show, and this is something we're still kind of new to. We don't really do a lot of live shows. You know what I mean? So we're moving to live though. So let us know in the chat if you guys can hear everything, and make sure we sound all right to everybody before we even get going. I don't want to go halfway through the show and everybody's like, "Oh, did you know you're muted the whole time?" Like, great. So, which has happened, it's why I'm asking. So, guys, like I said, we've got a lot to talk about, a lot in the way of Star Wars. We just came off of a huge celebration. It's the biggest celebration that we've had in, recent memory. Okay, they can hear us just fine. Andrew Haley says they can hear us just fine, so we're good to go. So before we get into all the Star Wars stuff, though, we're not only are we going to talk about celebration, but we're going to be giving our reviews for that wicked episode of Mando that we got last night, and I think JG is teasing me with some debates that we're going to be having tonight on some stuff and things. So it's going to be an interesting show. But before we get to the Star Wars stuff, I just want to let you guys know real quick, on May 6th, we're going to be doing a 24-hour live stream. And during this live stream, I'm going to be playing some Jedi Fallen Order. And once we finish Jedi Fallen Order, we're going to be going right into Jedi Survivor. And during the stream, we'll be taking donations for veteran suicide, for awareness and prevention of veteran suicide. And as a thank you for your donation, if you donate over a certain amount, I'll have a list of all of my canon novels, my hardback novels, that I'll be sending out to everybody who donates over a certain amount as a massive thank you for what you guys are doing. So hopefully by the end of the night, we are out of novels, and hopefully we can raise some money for this cause. So that is going to be on May 6th, 7 p.m. to 7 p.m. I think it's a Saturday going into a Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. And so come join me. We'll talk some Star Wars. We'll talk about whatever you guys want to talk about, and we'll play some Jedi Survivor and Jedi Fallen Order in the process. So mark your calendars, May 6th at 7 p.m. With that out of the way, let's get into some Star Wars stuff, because I know that's what you guys are here for, and it's already going to be a massive episode. So first off, let's get the big stuff out of the way. Mando last night. We got, what was it, Chapter 23, The Spies. This was one. Look, and I know, and I'm going to get screamed at by somebody on this panel. I already know it. I wasn't a fan of last week's episode. I mean, and I'm not just trying to jump on a bandwagon. I just didn't care for it. As far as I was concerned, it was Din Djarin and Bo-Katan went to Disney World and met Nacho Libre, and then proceeded to have a CSI Miami episode. with a droid morgue included. So that's kind of where I'm at. And, it's coming off of that one, maybe that's why this one was so awesome for me. I don't know, but it's about time we finally got that turning point I think we were waiting for. Guys, what do you think about all that?
Last week specifically for me was really fun because coming off of we have to look back at shows like Rebels where we have droids that are singing in space. We look back at Clone Wars and we have some really just out of nowhere episodes. It just feels like one of those to me. And it's just, yeah, it could be a little annoying that we're not getting to the great material, but we know that by the last 2 episodes, we're going to get to it, and we got to it.
Steven?
Yeah, it reminded me, like JG said, of some of the fun elements of Star Wars. I think some of the guest cast kind of I had to do a double take and think, is that Christopher Lloyd, Lizzo, Jack Black? It's not who, it makes me think back to how in the original trilogy, they tried to get a bunch of unknowns and really to not take you out of Star Wars. And it didn't take me out of it because it was a fun episode. It wasn't my favorite by any means. It's not one I don't think I'm going to go back and rewatch right away. But I think, that location, that planet is going to come back into play. And I feel like we're going to visit them again, maybe not next week, but I think next season. And it was fun. It was very unexpected. I was laughing at points. And I think this week's was much better, in my opinion, as an episode and more of a cinematic experience.
Usef?
Well, last week we had a question, which was, can you really see, Star Wars have a comedy element? I believe the question was aimed primarily at having an animated show be sort of be centered around a comedy theme, not really be an action sequence sort of thing, or even be geared towards the Force, just be a comedy show. I felt like last week's episode was a pretty neat hybrid of having some, it just sort of really takes the edge off while also building a lot of what we wanted to see. It moved the story along ever so slightly. And it also had it had a lot of freshness in it. Yeah, I get the Nacho Libre pun, obviously, and Christopher Lloyd popping in there was not something I expected at all. I feel like I'll be completely honest. I felt like we could have done without it because I'm so excited to see what comes up next in the Mando with the excitement with everything. But all in all, I'm happy. I'm okay with it. I'm not thrilled about it, but it was nice. It was something nice. See, one of those things where I like to binge episodes a lot, especially Mando, because then it makes episodes like that in the longer view of the story be so cool, right? It makes it, yeah, okay, that's nice. It was fun in there. Let's get back to where we were. But waiting every single week in, week out, just wanting the I want the anticipation. I'm happy for it. I'm excited that I get that episode. Wasn't really what I was expecting.
JG, was it your favorite Bryce Dallas Howard episode or not?
No, I think some of the other ones have been way better, but it just felt very much like a Bryce Dallas Howard. It still feels really great, and I still want more content. Heck, I'd take a movie from Bryce right now.
Mm-hmm. No, because we're talking about Bryce Dallas Howard. I was a huge fan of the she did the one right with the ATST, and I think it was was that the first season?
Yes,
I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah. So when you see the glowing the glowing red eyes of it in the woods, and how it kind of just kind of lifted up out of the woods, I was a huge fan of that episode. I thought it was that's my favorite Bryce Dallas Howard episode. But
didn't she direct one of the ones where Din was the focus in Book of Boba Fett, right?
I think
so.
I think she did one of those. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that was a really good one. I'm one of my favorites of the Book of Boba Fett season.
Yeah. No,
I was clowning going into this thinking she was going to introduce Sabine, because in season 1 she introduced Cara Dune. Season 2 she introduces Bo-Katan. So I was like, oh, is she going to introduce Sabine? Are we going to follow a trend? And she gave us Lizzo instead. So quite a surprise.
I wasn't expecting it. Kirsty, she was watching she was looking at IMDb as we were watching it, and so before they even popped up, she was like, she was on the other side of the room, and she was like, "Oh," I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Nothing. Don't worry about it."
Oh my god!
And I was like, "Oh," crap. and then because I completely forgotten that Christopher Lloyd was ever cast in it. Yeah, and right, and I'd forgotten all about all of it, and then when he popped up, because after Jack Black and Lizzo popped up, and I was just like, "Oh Jesus!" And then
I wasn't expecting
that's when she was like,
to ever
"Wait,
have
what?"
a serious role. I'm not sure if any of you did as well. I was definitely not expecting to have a serious role. He didn't really have that much of a serious role.
I've got a hard time imagining Jack Black as an Imperial on the bridge of a Star Destroyer with Darth Vader like above him, and like Jack Black's like messing up the shields or whatever, and Vader starts choking Jack Black, and we all know what that would look like, you know. And it's like, I don't know, it's weird to me. I can't believe it. It's hard to believe that he's in Star Wars, and you know, and honestly, I didn't even recognize Lizzo at first, and then she started talking. I'm like, are you serious? No way. But then the Christopher Lloyd thing was just so goofy because, you know, toward the end of the episode when they call him out for it and nobody's moving and he just jumps up, he's like, everybody freeze, and he's got his hand over the button and nobody's moving already, and you couldn't help but laugh at it, but one of the things that I was like, babe, I was looking at Kirsty, I was like, babe, why is their entire society like so dependent on droids, and there's one massive red button that would shut down everything with no cover over it. Like with no like protective thing over, like why is that a thing? Like somebody's gonna slip on some spilled blue milk or something and land on the button, and there's your end of your way of life, you know.
Hey,
and so
you keep it up, Brian. We're gonna get the Rogue One version where they explain it in a movie. The reason why there's a button there.
That was some disgruntled construction worker decided to put in the flaw, huh?
And
I'd watch it.
This,
It wouldn't surprise me at this point. Do what?
If you're listening to this right now and you have not seen Lizzo dressed up as Halloween as Grogu, you need to do yourself a favor and Google that. She like basically forecasted she was going to be in this show like 2 years ago, and she looked amazing at Halloween as Grogu.
No,
It was something.
It was all right. It was an all right episode. I still don't think it's not by far my favorite, but I was just like, what the heck? But then this week, you guys all got to watch it before I did. I watched it last night, finally, because Kirsty kind of blew me off this week. And so I sat down and started watching it, and the first, 7 or 8 minutes, for the record, if you guys are listening to this, we're going to be talking spoilers on this episode, so go watch it if you haven't already, and then come back. But, this, the first, 7 minutes, I was already messaging everybody, oh my effing God, oh my effing God. And I was like, are you kidding me right now? Is this real? Is this really happening? Seeing the Shadow Council and I was already freaking out. And then when he said Captain Paleon, I was just like, oh my God. So off this scene alone, I want to know what everybody's percentages are. What are the odds that we're going to be getting a Thrawn appearance in this next episode, in the last episode of season 3?
100%.
I'm with you.
100%, but maybe a post-credit scene. Do you think we see him before credits?
Oh, I would. It's going to be 100. I know he's going to be in the next episode, but post-credit scene, that's probably going to be it. Yeah, I think that's a high probability. I mean,
yeah, I'm worried.
I don't.
That
what's going?
It would be undercut. You know what I mean? I'm worried that it would be too small of an appearance. I want it to be gravitas.
His first appearance to be epic and grand and.
Not grand per se. I just want it to be he. I mean, if you saw the episode, you would have seen Gideon make a sort of challenge. So where is Thrawn? We haven't seen him. We've just been saying, and I've been hearing of every single secret and rumor in the galaxy, and the only one who's spitting this rumor is you. And then I just want Thrawn to come in and shut his ass up. You know what I mean?
I think it's going to happen because what did Gideon say? What did Gideon say? He tied up Din Djarin and he said, take him to the briefing room. And so I'm positive. I'm going to say it. That's good. That's going to be Thrawn's first appearance. I think they're going to drop Din Djarin into this briefing room, and Gideon's going to start talking, you know how villains always do, saying their whole master plan, and then all of a sudden the hollow's going to come up. And there's going to be Grand Admiral Thrawn. I think that's how it's going to go down. It's just they're dropping way too many hints for him. Captain Paleon, and we got Brendel Hux, which was awesome. I couldn't believe we got Brendel Hux, which he was actually played by Domhnall Gleeson's brother.
Yes.
I thought that was that was a nice little touch. I thought, really, like I said, 7 minutes in, I was already losing my mind. The mention of the Praetorian Guards, coming from Captain Paleon himself, it was. Because I was thinking Paleon died in Rebels. Am I crazy? Because I thought in Rebels when the Purrgil were attacking, Thrawn had had radioed up to him from Lothal and was like, "What's going on up there, Captain Paleon?" He's like, "It's a," and then it cut out. Yep. So I thought that he had gone down with the ship. I guess I was wrong.
The dust.
Yeah. But awesome intro. And then, I mean, the episode just kept giving. It just kept giving more and more and more. And, you know, even with the Praetorian Guards at the end, I know we're jumping from the beginning to the end, but I got to say, rest in peace, Paz Vizsla. We barely knew ye. No, I'm just kidding. We didn't. He was awesome. Jon Favreau went out like an absolute
awesome.
badass. And so all I could hear the whole time he was fighting was, I need a hero. I'm going out for a hero to lead. And so that's all I could hear. But he went down like a badass. And, you know, I remember when Last Jedi came out, everybody's like, how do they have weapons that lightsabers can't cut through? Now we know they're made of Beskar. Mm-hmm. And so it's, you know, I don't remember which one of you guys said it in the chat. But I know it was one of you. But Dave Filoni's doing for the sequel trilogy with the Mandoverse stuff the same way, you know, the same thing he did with the prequels with Clone Wars. He's kind of supplementing it and making it better and building on it a little bit better. And I don't remember which one of you guys said that, but it's a great point. And dude, how badass did they look? They looked absolutely awesome. So
absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot to unpack on this episode, but I want to go around to each of you guys and get your individual thoughts on the episodes overall and kind of what your predictions are for next week's episode. So whichever one of you guys wants to go first, JG, you take the lead. Go for it.
Sure. The beginning was so cool. Really, actually, like, I think even the episode just started off so good when it starts off like on Coruscant there. Gave me really some 1313 vibes. So right off the bat, I was like, oh gosh, we're really going into this, aren't we? Obviously the Shadow Council scene, incredible, amazing. Really was wanting to see Rey Sloan, and I'm just gonna hope that, you know, they're holding her back just like they're holding back Thrawn, because I know that she's a character that only people who have like either have read the books, the comics, or even played Squadrons has gotten to be introduced to her. But I think she is such an integral part to the First Order and what happens, that she has to show up at some point in this story, because it just would not make sense without her. And the rest of the episode was really solid and really good. I was not expecting it to end the way that it did, the way kind of in versus season 2, where instead of Grogu being captured, now it's Mando that's captured. And going into next week, I'm genuinely scared. I think we're going to lose a major character. I don't think the bloodshed is done. And I think Gideon is out for some blood and some vengeance, and he's going to get it. And I think people should not forget that they showed us the Mind Flay, I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
In the beginning of the season. I think someone is going to go through that next week. So.
Well, and JG, before you go on too, you had a theory you shared with me, the title of the episode, and I think you need to share that too.
Yes, this episode is very interesting because it says that it's the spies, plural, which obviously we know it's what's her name in the beginning. She's obviously clearly a spy. But the title is plural. So someone else is a spy in this episode. And the armorer is sus. The armorer, I don't trust her. She is shady. She's the only one to escape and not get hurt. Which that could be a red herring, and it could be the ones that are already on there. But I don't trust her. And how she was so on top of Din, like, you know, going into the waters and putting his helmet back on, but then loosely she's like, oh, Bo-Katan, you're great, you know, you're fine. Like, no, that doesn't make any sense. That does not follow her character. She's a spy. She's a traitor. She has the same pointy, like, thorn things on her helmet as Gideon.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
Damn, brother, you just messed me up right now.
Yeah. Don't trust her, y'all. But yeah.
Looking back at season 1, remember, she was the only one, like you said, that survived the attack on Navarro. All the Mandalorian armor was there, and she was still just living down in the cellars there.
Yeah.
Usef?
Well, yeah, that just threw me. That was one hell of a curveball, and it smacked me right in the freaking mouth right there. So, yeah. I kind of don't want to say now, but never mind. No, okay, no. No, I was just gonna say that I've liked this season quite a bit. It's really cool. It feels like it's culminating, it's gathering a lot of heat. You know what I mean? Like excuse me, like when you're on the tarmac and you got all the smell of burning rubber and you're raring to go, and it feels like we're not stopping anytime soon, and I just wanna be going, and it's just it's been delivering a lot, and it's very intriguing. And as much as it's a slow burn, as much as I'm really enjoying it, I've never enjoyed such a slow burn before, except maybe in Red Dead Redemption, but never mind. But yes, no, but really, like I liked the episodes a lot, even with the break a little bit of the comedy relief. It's doing an amazing service to my Star Wars universe, and I say that very, very personally, to my Star Wars universe. You know what I mean? And I'm doing this. I don't mean this on the whole. I'm just genuinely saying what it means to me, for me. To me, Mandalorian is not a main event as much as I treat it as one. It's because it's what I have for me right now, and it's feeding me an amazing amount of Star Wars sustenance. And I'm finally gonna get to see Thrawn in live action, because anybody else who I'm talking about in Star Wars about Star Wars with, nobody knows who Thrawn is. Nobody, unless by the off chance they've seen Rebels. They basically don't know, because they haven't even. Half of the people I talked to about Star Wars don't even know there are books, and the other half have read some books. They'll only be related to the main trilogy, or excuse me, they'll only be related in and out of the Skywalker saga. And it's so disappointing. It's not enough, and we're gonna get literally. I'm a huge fan of villains. We're gonna get one of the villains that Star Wars has. He just hasn't been in any sort of light, and that really overshadows so much of what I have to say about the Mandalorian. I could say so much about what's been anticipated, about what I want to see happen, but that's really a highlight for me right now. And yeah, I'm trying to keep it unique here and say my genuine opinion rather than just sort of give general comments about Mando, which is amazing, but because it is amazing. It's been doing this really, and I love the theory, by the way. Well, not the theory; it's a rhetoric actually, that the Mandalorian is not referring to Din Djarin; it's referring to Grogu. I want to see that a little bit more. So my wife, she's into Star Wars, but she's only into Star Wars because of me. That video, the funny TikTok thing with the guy holding the gun to his wife's head. Saying that. But she told me this today. She was like, "I'll be honest, like Grogu is what I'm here for. I love Mando, and it's really cool watching this faction build up. I have no idea who these villains are. I don't know why they're so important. Yeah, they're cool. The Darksaber looks cool. I want to see what happens between Grogu and what's his name, a Buckethead." I was like, "Yeah, okay, thank you for that comment, wifey." Okay, cool. Yeah, okay. That was me.
Steven?
Yeah, I agree with all of you guys. I think it was such a cinematic experience, and correct me if I'm pronouncing the name wrong. Rick Famuyiwa, right, is the director, and
Yep.
I think
Do
this is
better
one of
than
the
me.
first times where he's directing this week and next week. So like a two-part, like he said in an interview at Celebration, this is like the culmination of like 3 seasons and the Book of Boba Fett. So
It's like
again,
a 2-episode finale, right?
yeah, it's a 2-episode two-parter really that he's directing, like a long movie almost. And we usually have different directors each week, so this is kind of, he's going to get to tell his full story across
Yep.
like almost 2 hours of content. So that excites me. I thought like just the scope of it looks so grandiose as we got to see so much. I thought like we finally got to see Gideon and then they saved him, and I'm glad that they did. As much as I wanted to see him earlier in the season, it paid off. Usef, have you read Phasma or the Aftermath trilogy?
Not yet, no. I'm probably not going to get to, because I want to head to the High Republic series next.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get bogged down too much. Well, not bogged down. You can't get bogged down in that because they're so important. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like I want to start reading up on High Republic properly.
The only reason I ask is because like the Shadow Collective and like especially Hux plays a role in all of those books, the 4 books there. And I just thought like, I wonder how that, if you had the same reaction to seeing him as not. And like Brian, you said about the Praetorian Guards and Hux, like for the people that for years have been saying that Mandoverse was going to retcon the sequel trilogy, which I thought was complete BS this whole time, this is like a big slap in the face saying, no, it's actually doing, like I said, or like you said earlier, like it's building up and in filling in the gaps, and it's making that when you go back and watch the sequel trilogy, you're going to see Hux, you're going to see the Praetorian Guards. I think it's going to make, like, one of my favorite scenes in Last Jedi is Kylo and Rey fighting the Praetorian Guards. And I think when I watch it again after seeing where they were in the timeline earlier, it's going to have a different impact. I just thought, like I said, the episode was great. Like Usef said, the Mandalorian title, you said it refers to Grogu. I think it can have, again, multiple different meanings. I think this is Bo-Katan's season. And it makes me wonder, that one quote that Din said to her about,
Yeah, that was cool.
the end of your song or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It makes me
Yeah.
wonder if she's going to die next week, or
Stop that.
if she goes like full like Daenerys, like dark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're building her up like they did with Daenerys in the last season of Game of Thrones. And it does make me wonder what's going to happen with her next week. I really, really want to see her riding the Mythosaur into battle next week, because
That would
you
be
don't just
awesome.
bring the Mythosaur up at the beginning of the season and don't come back to it. Like
Right.
if it's real, which I believe it is, you bring that into battle. It's like we are right there on the same planet as the Mythosaur. If there's only one or however many there are, I want to see those in battle against Gideon's fleet. And I cannot wait. I think by Rick Famuyiwa saying that this is going to continue and pick up from where Boba Fett was too, I wouldn't be surprised if Boba and Fennec Shan play a role. I think, who in the chat, was it you, Brian, that mentioned about what you wanted for Boba Fett to do in the episode?
Oh, no, I just want him to show up. I'm predicting that he's going to show up.
Who said something about who he's going to adopt? Was that JG?
Oh,
or
that
who was
wasn't me, no.
No, I said he's not showing up.
I thought someone mentioned like they wanted him to adopt Vizsla's
Oh,
son.
his
'cause, like,
son?
he's gone through like
Oh.
losing a father, and like this could be like maybe a mentor role. That seems a little far fetched, but I thought it was a good idea. Whoever said that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, man.
it's and you know, I remember I was watching this last night, and Grogu getting his own mech suit, his own battle mech, was so freaking cool.
He hardly
And-
used it though. He didn't even fire anything.
Not
He
yet,
hardly used
but
it.
I know he's going to though, because like this season,
Yeah.
like so far, like between Book of Boba Fett, the episodes of Book of Boba Fett, and where we're at now, what all has Grogu gotten? He's gotten the chainmail, he got that awesome Captain America shield chest plate with the mud horn on it, and now he's got this IG-12 battle suit. He's wearing an assassin droid. Like, that's so cool to me. And
He's
then he's
operating
got the
one,
yes
yeah.
and no buttons. I was laughing my butt off. No, yes. I'm like, that's so great. And I loved it. And seeing the Anzalian trying to crawl down, he's like, no squishy, as he's walking by. And it was just, when you see little stuff like that, the practical effects and the way it like, for me, it feels like Star Wars. You know, when you've got this big CGI fest, it can pull you out of it. But when you see like little touches like that, the quaking monkey lizards in the trees, you know what I mean? I can't help but get excited when I see stuff like that, because to me it's bringing the spirit of Star Wars back. And at this episode
Also
just
shows the effort. they're putting in.
exactly, and the love and
Really does, the love, yeah.
and so this episode just blew me away. And as soon as what are we gonna call them? The Storm Mandos, the Stormtrooper Mandos, when they
the new Mindo Dark Trooper,
something, yeah, when they first showed up, which by the way they were heavily influenced by the prototype Boba Fett armor from the concept art. They were heavily influenced. When they started running, and I was like, oh no, they're leading the Mando somewhere. Don't follow. It's a trap. It's a trap. Don't do it. Like, I know. And then when they saw the interceptors hanging, I was like, yeah, here comes Gideon. And boy, did he come in like, freaking hell on fire. It was like, just looking, I don't know. It's just awesome. I'm sorry. This whole episode, when he came back with a vengeance. And I feel like, I said earlier, he's going to be the guy that's like, this is my master plan, and then just kind of go through it. I think he's beyond that at this point. I think he's just, he's a guy that's scorned, and he's out for blood. And, they made the comment at the beginning of the episode that the Mandalorians are going to be a huge hitch in the plan for Thrawn to bring the military back in and to, rebirth the Empire, basically. And so it's coming down to a personal fight, and God, I'm here for it. I'm so here for it, man. I can't wait. So I thought this episode was absolutely amazing, and I'm glad, because I was starting to worry about this season quite a bit. Personally, it's just me, because like you guys said earlier, it was a serious slow burn story this season, and I think you guys are right. I think it's Bo-Katan's it's Bo-Katan's season this season. So really did enjoy it. So one more week, and we've got the finale. It kind of sucks that we're almost to the end of the season already, but I think we're in for a heck of a ride next week. honestly, I'm not looking for the episode to be very long. I don't think it's going to be an hour long, but I think it's going to be all payoff. And so I think it's going to hit the ground running, and 40, 50 minutes, I'll be happy. So we'll see how it goes. Let us know in the chat, guys. What did you think of this week's episode of Mando? You know what I always say, keep it civil, please, for the love of God. I don't want to have to boot anybody from the live chat. And we've had to do that before. So please don't be that guy, please. So let's move on to Celebration. We've already been going for 30 minutes, and we're not even to Celebration stuff yet. So let's get into this. Let's just kick it off with the big stuff right off the bat. The Lucasfilm Studio Showcase. I got up and watched this and was like, what in the heck? This is wild. They talked a lot about Ahsoka. They talked a lot about Mando, Skeleton Crew, Acolyte, and and everything. But let's start with the big stuff first, and because I get it off our chest. I was freaking out. I've been annoying my wife with this for the last week now, basically. So the first big thing I want to talk about, new time periods on the timeline that they've announced. And we used to have Age of Republic, Age of Rebellion, Age of Resistance, which was kind of where they were going with that. We have several now, and there's what, 8 of them or 9 of them, something like that. So the order now is Dawn of the Jedi, the Old Republic, the High Republic, Fall of the Jedi, Reign of the Empire, Age of Rebellion, the New Republic, Rise of the First Order, and the New Jedi Order. The New Jedi Order, Dawn of the Jedi, time periods, we've already got films announced that are occupying those time periods. We know the Mando movie that we're going to be talking about here in a minute is there in the New Republic era. But they didn't say a word. They just kind of slowly slipped it in and didn't say anything. The Old Republic has been added to this. They didn't say anything about it. They didn't announce anything for it. There's no comics. There's no movie. There's no show. There's no game. Nothing. But they're just like, oh, we're going to leave this right here. Like, just, we'll come back to that later. And they haven't, So what do you guys think of all these time periods? And do you think I'm crazy that maybe, I'm going to go ahead and say it, Taika Waititi's film is going to be Old Republic? I'm going to say it. Because they dropped the time period in there, didn't say jack about it, and didn't say anything about his movie. So what do you guys think of these time periods? And that's a two-parter. Is that possible? Are we going to be seeing a Taika Waititi Old Republic movie?
I'm very excited that we're expanding the timeline. Like, we're going backwards, we're going forward. It's giving, and the great news about these films is that it's giving everyone, any Star Wars fan, something that they can enjoy. Like, man, if you're really into history, you're into, like, as they described it as a biblical epic, man, we got that for you. Are you like a huge sequel fan? We got that you too. Are you really diving into Mandoverse? We got you covered. And I think that's what's so great about these film announcements is that there's something there for everyone. Maybe it's not, maybe you love Star Wars in general, but not everything's not your favorite thing. They're still there for something for everyone. Old Republic is very spicy because, we've heard it mentioned in canon. We just have not had an actual story take place there yet. Who knows if the KOTOR remake ends up being canon or not, because that's still a mystery at this point. Does look like it's moving forward. So it's interesting because whenever they talked about Taika's film at whatever investor meeting that is, they showed an image with it, and it seemed kind of like old and prehistoric, almost something that you would think would be at the dawn of the Jedi. So it is going to be interesting to see if Taika's film does come forth, where that will come out. Maybe it's Old Republic. I don't know. I think that they're holding off on that for now.
Steven?
Yeah, I'm very excited to see this, how it's laid out. I like timelines. JG and I know from our Marvel cast that we made our own Marvel timeline that we've made together. And so it excites me, like JG said, where it reminds me kind of like where Marvel's moving forward, like mostly in the same time period. It reminds me a little bit about what Star Trek's doing, where they've got like 5 shows now that are all at different time periods. I like how JG said, if you're a fan of this era, there's something for everyone.
Different timelines too, am I right?
In Star Trek?
Yeah. Because Picard is still the original, like the Next Generation timeline, and we've got the Kelvin timeline.
Yeah. All the shows are the same timeline. The Kelvin timeline is the one with Chris Pine.
Right.
And they have a little bit of a crossover, but all the shows are in the same timeline, which is
Okay.
nice to follow and like see how they kind of tease each other throughout time too.
Gotcha.
But this reminds me too of the fact that in about a week or two, one of my most anticipated books of the year, the DK reference Star Wars timeline is coming out.
Yes.
And that is so exciting to me for a couple reasons. I just love the idea of it because I was looking on Twitter, like it is super detailed. Like they will mention things from an IDW comic from 5 years ago and they will put it where it should go on the timeline. And like I don't have time. I've read every, canon comic and I've read every canon book.
Mhm.
I don't have time to go back and reread those because there's countless books and hundreds of comics at this point. But if I can recap myself by reading through this pages of this book, that's what I'm looking forward to doing. And like maybe it'd be really useful to like someone like Usef who knows the main points and hasn't had a chance to read all the canon. This is a great like summary, and then he could go back and find the stories he really wants to go into. I think this will be a great way for people to dive into the canon a little bit more. And I think
can
it'll be
track
a
my
great
progress.
recap.
Yeah.
Yeah, like seriously, you can just start at the beginning and work your way through.
Yeah.
And obviously the
Yeah.
book's going to have to be updated, every 2 or 3 years or whatever. But I really liked, I sent you guys in the chat, someone at Celebration got their hands on the book because they sold it there. And like the 2-page spread about Thrawn basically took the events of his 6 canon novels and his time on Rebels, and it laid everything out in a very, visual, graphic way that for me was really helpful because those books are so long and detailed
Mhm.
with so many characters that I couldn't keep track of and remember from years ago when I read them. But just knowing I wanted to have a quick visual recap and it was a perfect 2-page spread, like it makes me so excited to see what the rest of the book's going to look like. And so this whole time period thing, it looks so cool. Are you guys all going to try to get that book when it comes out?
I will. I'm actually
Pre-order.
going to try to buy this
Oh yeah.
physical copy.
Oh,
Yeah.
it looks so good.
Yeah, I buy everything on Kindle now, but this is going to be one I end up getting a hard
Yeah, I
copy
wanted
of
in front
because
yeah, copy. Yeah,
yeah.
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 Oh, and to answer your other question, Brian, I'm not 100% sold Taika's movie will ever see the light of day.
No?
I hate to say that. I'm losing hope. I think they should have referenced it. I don't. Nothing was said at all last week, right?
I don't think so.
Just
Oh,
interview. Just
she-
an interview
yeah.
with Kathy.
Kathy ended up saying something that it was still in the works, but he was still writing it, and
Okay.
he didn't want anybody else to kind of mess with him while he was writing it. He wanted to be the one to write it, and she understood that, and so, man,
And
I
like him as a
hope you're not
director.
right.
I like him as a director with like Jojo Rabbit and Thor Ragnarok, but it does worry me. Like, I mean, I want him to have the free reign to do what he wants. But like when he asked Natalie Portman if she wanted to be in it, like
yeah,
if you're a Star Wars director,
I know.
That's
Huge
probably-
no-no.
That was a
no-no.
huge red flag for me.
yeah.
Let's
But yeah,
give
I
him the
mean,
benefit of the doubt and say he was under influence of something and just forgot.
He was under the, how
Thought
are
he
you
was talking to
how are
someone
you
else.
how are you going to make a Star Wars movie and not remember that you're already working with Luke Skywalker's mother? I just
Is it as bad as saying the same question to Ewan McGregor? Is it as bad as that?
did you ever think about doing something in Star Wars? Usef, what do you think?
I was gonna ask you guys a question. I was gonna answer your question with a question. I was gonna
Oh.
say I was gonna ask if you guys thought that they would specifically make each timeline have a different rhythm. So my take on this, I face a lot of, I'm sure we all do, Star Wars fans in general, everywhere, all over the world. We have to talk a lot about Star Wars to people who aren't particularly, they don't know much about Star Wars. They're not sure where the Mandalorian is. Oh, okay, so Mandalorian's out. This is a good time for me to learn about Star Wars. Well, how do you handle that question? You know what I mean? So if you want to introduce someone to Star Wars, then they start watching it. The rhythm is what gets them. That's my personal take on this. The rhythm either gets them going into it and they want to watch the story, want to get into it because of the way you get into it, or the rhythm completely bums them out and it's not what they're used to because it's not modern, it's not exciting, it's not a Marvel movie. Even Lord of the Rings, the way epic it was, how epic it is, it's not at the same pace. Star Wars is completely different in the way the story is told when you're watching the movie experience itself, right? So what I was wondering is, as you said, like for example, if there's, because it's going to be so large now, and I'm fighting this issue that I'm not able to keep up with so many other franchises that I love because there's just so much content. So I'll start picking and choosing what I want to watch in each franchise. Like for example, within Marvel, I love Black Panther. He's fantastic. I used to love Captain America, so I'm going to follow Winter Soldier as well. But I think I just love Black Panther too. Amazing. So I'm hoping that I'm going to get a lot of good service towards Black Panther within the coming movies and so on. but I won't be able to watch the rest of the show. So with Star Wars, hopefully you'll be able to, whatever you're into, you're going to find. But I'm asking here is it going to be content oriented, or are they also going to pay special attention to, there will be a specific identity to each timeline in how the story is presented and the rhythm is shown, and and how the rhythm, how that embodies the story, because the rhythm is a huge part of how the story is told. Is it quick-witted? Is it slow paced and burning? Is slow burn? Is it, it really, it's gonna be the meat of it. It's gonna be how the story is told, and that plays a huge part. If they do that with every different timeline, so if the timeline is historic based, then it's gonna be, so many events and epic and wow and biblical and all that, and then there could be something more modern where it's very edgy, very exciting, very action-oriented, very, that sort of thing. Whereas Mando and the pieces in between is going to be a slow burn with so many amazing characters. So that's going to be for the ones who are really hardcore fans, so on. Do you guys get my gist? What do you think about what I'm saying?
I would almost say they have to be different feels to kind of identify, because, excuse me for that. Excuse me. Because I think we're going to get to a point, we were kind of talking about it in the chat last night. I'm convinced here in the next 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 years, we're going to go to 2 films a year. And I see that happening because, I mean, with Marvel putting out 3 films and, how many series a year, there's no excuse Lucasfilm can't do it. So at some point, we're going to be kicking out a movie every 4 months. You're going to have to differentiate those movies somehow for people who don't keep up with the timelines and keep up with which one is which. That way they know which stories they want to follow and which movies they want to see. I think you're going to have to do that at some point.
Mm-hmm. But you wouldn't think there's one overarching identity for Star Wars from now on in the way they tell the stories, sort of thing. They would do which is what I prefer, is to have every time to have its own rhythm. That's what I prefer.
And I mean, no matter what time period we're in, Usef, I think it's still going to have the same basic themes of Star Wars, that you'll know it's a Star Wars property, like even without a title on it. Like, for example, Usef and I communicate a lot. I'm a history teacher, and Usef's been a big help to come in and zoom in with my students and talk. And like Usef, whenever I teach like about the old, middle, and new kingdom of Egypt, we're going back, 4,000 or 5,000 years at that point, right? And so when we now see we're going back 25,000 years to the dawn of the Jedi, think about, I try to tell my students how different society looked and clothing and, technology looked 5,000 years ago for the ancient
and
Egyptians.
Humor and social standing.
Yeah,
and
everything. And that's only 1/5 of how far back we're going.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would not be like, this could be like caveman style, like biblical, like he keeps saying, and we'll talk about it in a few minutes, but like, it's going to look so different. They should not have the same type of technology in spaceships. They shouldn't even have droids. I mean, if we're going back that far, it'll have the themes of Star Wars, but it should not look like anything we've seen in Star Wars before. If you're going that far back, you're going back to like the origins of Star Wars right here.
Right.
And I think the High Republic is a great example of this, because even though it's only like about 200 years before the Phantom Menace, the High Republic is so different. Like, yeah, you still see the Jedi. Yeah, we still get Coruscant, but my gosh, the authors have just completely have shown that, like, the further back you go, the more just distinct and unique the time period is going to be. And even if we're just going back just 200 years and it feels that different already, imagine when we go back to the Old Republic and then even further back. And I think each era, I think we even look at the existing, if we want to look at like the core from the Skywalker saga, each of those eras, they all have the similar themes. They all have the same messages that Star Wars has always instilled for the past 40 plus years, but they all have a different tone and a different feel and a different, almost maybe like a different energy kind of in the way that they're presenting the story and telling the story. But at its core, it's Star Wars. And so I do think in order for it to be successful and in order for it to really work, it's got to do what Marvel did. And Marvel had, just like it did in the past phase, it had to take risks. It had to do stories that were different, that had not been done before. Star Wars is going to have to dive into genres that it hasn't done before. We can't keep doing the same thing we've done for 40 years anymore. We got to take risks and see what happens.
I like that. I like that a lot, yeah.
And Obi-Wan mentioned in the original Star Wars, for over 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights are the Guardians of Peace of Justice. If a generation is 20 years, he already just said 20,000 years, and he said for over. Yep. So, it's not like they're doing anything out of the realm of anything that wasn't already established in the universe or in canon or anything. No lightsabers, no droids. I think this is going to be, swords. You're going to be looking at Jedi with metal swords, and if they even have anything like that. But it's going to be a very different Star Wars, and
I want to see the first lightsaber. That's going to be awesome.
That's
the first kyber crystal.
Yes,
that first kyber crystal being calling out with the Force. Sort of thing.
Because in Legends, in Legends, the old lightsabers had like a cable going from the end of it to their belt to a power pack. You remember those in the comics, and so I want to see the evolution of that, and so it's almost like Lucasfilm was like, we've got this like 60-year period we've been telling all these stories in, which is really, that's what it's, 60 or 70-year period. And then they went back 200 years, and they're like, now we have 200 years to play with. And they're like, that was fun. Let's go get like 25,000 years that we can play with, and then like nothing matters. We'll just do whatever we want. And then I think that's the right move. Like JG said, you've got to start taking these risks and step out and find these new genres for Star Wars films. You have to do it. You gotta let the past die. See what I did there? I can't believe I'm quoting a sequel movie, but you've got to let the past die. So I'm excited about all these new time periods, and it makes it a lot easier to kind of break down everything and kind of place it where it goes, and it's a lot easier to organize everything now. So before we get into the actual movies, I wanted to touch on this little thing here real quick. The opening crawl's coming back to every Star Wars movie from now on. Solo and Rogue One, it was like blatantly gone. Like it was just not there. And so it was kind of weird. And it's one of those things that identifies, to me, when you sit down in a Star Wars film and you see the opening crawl, that's when you know you're in a Star Wars movie. Like it's Star Wars. You're watching this renegade random yellow paragraph floating through space that nobody ever seems to run into. It's there, and it's part of the movie, and it's part of the identity of Star Wars. What do you guys think?
I'm okay with it. I like it. I think it's very Star Wars. It's very sort of stamp thing.
Yeah.
I'm not against them having it. I'm not against them removing it. I think this is a new era for Star Wars, and I think them sticking to it is like, well, we're not changing everything, sort of thing. I'm not, that's just how I feel for the time being. I haven't had much time to process this. Maybe when the first movie actually comes out and we look at it and we're like, oh, okay, maybe that shouldn't be there. That sort of thing. Not sure yet.
I think Solo, I can commend them for giving it a shot with Solo and Rogue One, because I think, again, that's what I was just saying, was like they need to take risks, and they took those risks. And I think I'm fine with how they did it in Solo. I mean, it would have been, they basically did a crawl, they just did it differently, basically.
Right.
I think Rogue One absolutely needed a crawl. The crawl needed to be the summary of Catalyst. I think that was missing for so many fans who had not read Catalyst. And I think that's the biggest thing is to show, especially because like when we do get these other movies that are going like so far beyond and such, like you got to tell people, hey, you're not gonna see Luke, you're not gonna see Ahsoka, like you're not gonna see Rey. You got to give some context to these stories here, and even for like when we get like eventually, because I'm gonna say we're gonna get High Republic movies, you need to give some context for the people who haven't read the books and the comics. These people, not everyone is going to be able to consume every piece of content, and not sleep. So there needs to be a summary to set the stage, essentially.
Yeah. And I know that John Williams will not be around forever, but
you take that back.
I feel like
you take that back.
I know. Maybe you will.
Sacrilege. How dare you?
I want
blasphemy.
In my
He's gonna live forever.
I know. But you should, in my opinion, start every Star Wars movie with that yellow font hitting you in the face, with John Williams' fanfare hitting you in the face.
Yeah.
Like, I know we're going to have other composers, like we've already had other composers, but years from now, when we are old and gray, I would still want to be going to the theater and seeing the crawl with his music, at least for that first song. Yeah. And am I crazy in saying that it's going to bug me, if we have 50 Star Wars movies, but only 2 of them do not have the crawl? Like, if I'm at Lucasfilm, I'm going in and doing George Lucas. I'm editing and I'm adding
special edition
movies for Disney Plus. Am I crazy, or would you do that?
No, you know what? I think you're onto something, man. Because I remember I don't think I was talking to any of y'all yet when Catalyst came out, before Rogue One came out. So I don't know where you guys were, if you had read Catalyst or anything before Rogue One. I remember reading Catalyst and like getting really pumped for Rogue One, and Kirsty wasn't able to go with me opening night to see it, and so I went and saw it, and then I was like, oh, you have to read that book first. You have to. And so, because Rogue One was just like that cold open. It was just, and then there it was, and then they just like dropped in a weird title card with like an iPhone or something. It was just there, and so it was like, so when Kirsty was finally getting ready to go see it, I'm like, you have to listen to Catalyst. Download the audiobook first and listen to that before you go see this movie, because it's not going to be the same. You know, I know that most of the people that were sitting in the audience with me when I saw Rogue One for the first time had not read Catalyst. And so to them, seeing Galen Erso and Lyra and watching what happened there and what transpired, they're like, oh, well, that sucks. You know, that's kind of a hard start for Jen. I'm sitting there going, I know these characters. I just spent 8-9 hours with them reading this book, you know, and seeing the relationships being built and everything there. That's gut-wrenching watching Lyra just get shot like a dog, basically, you know, and after everything she did and how much she cared for Galen and, you know, was trying to open his eyes to what was going on. So, yeah, I think, you know, I think they need to be special editioned and just given crawls. I think that, yeah, absolutely. I think so. You shouldn't have to, you know, it's great that we have all this canon stuff, and it's great that we have all these novels and these comics to supplement what's there, but you shouldn't have to read the books to know what's going on in the movies, you know? I mean, granted, it makes them better, but you got to know what's going on. And so that crawl, yeah, that's... And even if they had done the crawl after reading Catalyst and it was just a recap of Catalyst, that would have gotten me excited. You know, I read that book. I know that. You know, I remember reading all that. I know how that went down. And so, I mean, look at A New Hope. It has an opening crawl, and now you have a movie that happens right before it that opening crawl talks about. So even if you don't watch Rogue One and you watch Star Wars in that opening crawl, you know what's going on, even if you didn't watch Rogue One. So, yes, they need to go back and definitely special edition it. I didn't even think of that, but yeah, no, you're absolutely. We need to petition for that because it's going to bug the crap out of me not having the opening crawl.
I like solos though. I don't touch solos. I like solos. Solos is, I don't know. It feels very solo to me.
It you know, and like you said earlier, I liked that one better than I did Rogue One. The way they opened it with just the blue text and you know, like you said, it was a crawl. It just wasn't crawling. It was there. It just and so yeah, no it. That one would be easy. It's already written. Just go back and redo it. So, so yeah, we've got the opening crawl coming back. So let's get into these 3 movies. Man, we already talked about the Dawn of the Jedi quite a bit, but we don't know the titles.
I had something else to add to that one, Brian.
Do what?
I had something else to add about the
yeah.
Dawn of the Jedi real quick. On the timeline that they showed at Celebration, did you notice what the icon was for the Dawn of the Jedi period?
The light and the dark, like the
so,
Jedi yin yang.
We're going to see
Jedi.
Octo, right? I mean, we have to end the movie there if that's the first Jedi Temple.
Oh,
or at least sometime in this time period, we're going to go to Octo.
I didn't even think of that.
Again, when you go back and watch the sequel trilogy, you're going to see where Luke was, and you're going to now have a different perspective because you've now seen where the very first Jedis started their training here on Octo.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Porgs.
And Luke, Porgs. More Porgs. Here we go. And, you know, Luke even talked about how the caretakers cared for the Jedi that were there. So you're going to see the caretakers on Octo 2. You know, it's man, I didn't even think of that. That's, you know, they kept talking about how that movie is still going to have ties to what's already come before. And I didn't even think of that. That's a really good point. God, it's so cool how these are all going to, it's going to feel like one universe, you know, it's just, yeah, exactly. And it just depends on your entry point into it and where you're at that particular time. We don't know the title of this movie yet. All we know is James Mangold is directing it, which is awesome to me. I absolutely, you know, I think the biggest thing us and our fandom know him for is Logan. Logan was an awesome film. Absolutely adored it. And to see the discovery of the Force in the First Jedi, I want to see how it went down. But they described the movie as a biblical epic. You know, and when you think biblical epic, or when I think biblical epic, all I can think of is those old style movies where it showed Moses by the Red Sea. And, you know, he'd just be parting the Red Sea, and it was just so, like, whoa, you know? And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I know we've already talked a little bit about Dawn of the Jedi, but do you guys have anything else you want to add to this movie?
Biblical also makes me think of, you know, something like Genesis in the Bible that is so out there. I mean, are we going to see Mortis? Are we going to see, like, the origins of the Force in this? Like, is it going to go full George Lucas with, like, you know, anything back in like how he wanted to do the Metachlorians? Like, what are we going to see here?
That's exactly what I was going to say, Stephen. Like, my favorite arc in all of Clone Wars was basically that. And I want to see that. I want to see the Force interacting. My favorite thing about Star Wars is the Force, the light and the dark, and what it means to different people. I want to see that happen. I want to see that explained, that embodied. You know what I mean? Like I want to see, so biblical also to me means not just that, but it also Adam and Eve moment, the devil and God and being
Mm-hmm.
kicked out of heaven and so on. That is because basically that is the basis of most of, Abrahamic religions, let's say. But the point here isn't really religion. It's just a point of, if I'm going to think of
The
this
theme.
religion, the force,
Right.
the theme. Yes. So,
Yeah.
so this theme, which is the major undertone, the major setting of Star Wars, how does it come about? What goes on? Where does the force come in? Why is it in play? Are there forces bigger than us for sort of fighting with each other, and it's left to us to sort of execute its will in the galaxy, sort of thing? Yeah, that's so cool. It's so amazing.
This is one, because I'm excited for two of these movies that are coming out. One of them, we'll see how it goes, but two of them, I'm like balls to bone, ready to go. Like, give it to me yesterday, and this is one of them. As soon as they announced that they were going back 25,000 years and doing the story of the Dawn of the Jedi, I almost jumped off my couch and I almost woke everybody in this house up, because I was just like, everybody else is still sound asleep, and I'm like down here in my studio. It's a good thing it's soundproof, because I was like, I was making noises that it would have worried somebody upstairs had they heard me down here. It was awesome. You know what I mean? And so I think this is going to be a really great one. Before we move on to the second one, do you guys have anything else you want to add for Dawn of the Jedi?
One final thought, because I
What's
do
up?
agree with what everyone has said. I will just say my one major crazy prediction for this is that if he wants to, I think we are going to get Hugh Jackman starring as in this film, because he has worked with Mangold in so many films. I think they're a 1-2 package, and I think if Hugh Jackman wants to do this, he is going to sign on and be the Prime Jedi,
It's going to be
discovering the Force.
amazing.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
And a little off topic, but this gives me hope in Indiana Jones 5, because
Yes.
Kathleen
Yeah.
Kennedy would
Yes.
not hire James Mangold for a big Star Wars tentpole film if he didn't come through with a great Indiana Jones movie to wrap
Right.
up Harrison's story.
It shows faith in what you've got coming to the table right now, and it shows confidence in your product. And so I'm all for it. I'm all for it. So this next one is the one that I am number one excited for. I have been a Star Wars fan basically my entire life. I was around for the prequels. I grew up on the originals. I was around for the prequels. I'm here for the sequels. When I went and saw Episode 3 in theaters, I counted down every single day for 3 years. I printed off calendars off my AOL computer, and I marked every single day with a pen on how many days I had left till Episode 3, and I marked them off for 3 years straight. I was that excited for Episode 3. When Episode 7 was rolling around, I thought I'd never be this excited for a Star Wars movie. Star Wars was back. We never thought we'd get more. I was terrified it was going to suck. I think we all had that little bit of a nagging in the back of our head, like, oh, God, please be good. But I was so excited for it. I have never in my life been this excited for a Star Wars project, ever. I've never been this excited for a Star Wars project. Dave Filoni is going to be directing a live-action crossover event for the what they're calling the Mandoverse. I hesitate to use that phrase because it's all one universe, but for the Mando timeline. And we all know what it's going to be. I mean, we all know how this is going to shake down. They're putting way too much out at this point. Like I said, I've never been this excited for it. All roads are leading to Thrawn at this point. All signs are basically showing this is going to be an Heir to the Empire canon adaptation. Obviously, they can't do it verbatim. There's things that you have to change. But I think they're gonna do it justice. I just have this feeling, man. And what it's gonna do, in my opinion, it's basically, how many times are we gonna end this battle between the Rebel Alliance and the Empire? We had the Battle of Endor. Everybody thought that was the end. Nope. Now we had the Battle of Jakku. Everybody thought that was the end. Nope. Now we've got this massive battle between the New Republic and the Imperial Remnant coming out, led by Thrawn. And this is this is new news. It's reportedly set for a 2026 release. I just saw that today. So, guys, Steven, what are your thoughts on this movie? What aspects of it do you think are going to end up coming to fruition? And are you excited for it?
I'm very excited. I mean, we go back to 2008 when Dave Filoni was the heir to the creator, and now he's going to be directing the Heir to the Empire. Like, just the fact that he gets to tell this story and he started off with Clone Wars. He moved up to direct from the Mandoverse, stories. It's really exciting. And again, for JG and I, he's a Pittsburgh guy too. Like the fact that Dave Filoni has made it from Pittsburgh all the way up to basically running what's going to be a huge film. I said it in our group chat, and Nick thought I was crazy. Like, I think this is going to give Force Awakens a run for its money for
I
the
agree with you at
biggest
this point.
box office.
The
And
turnout of
especially,
it, yeah.
I know we've been talking, and we'll talk about it. If you bring in a CGI version of Luke, Han,
Yep.
Leia, because look
Yep.
at Indy 5's trailer,
You're going
you
to
have
break the
technology
internet.
to do this.
Yeah.
And the question is, do you keep it secret like Spider-Man No Way Home with Tobey and Andrew Garfield, or do you promote it? Because if you promote it, it will give The Force Awakens a run for its money.
It will.
It's so exciting. Like, The Mandalorian is what brought people that kind of gave up on the sequels back into Star Wars. Like,
Yeah.
people are so excited for this show, and people are so excited for Ahsoka. And, whatever you thought about Book of Boba Fett and now Skeleton Crew, like, it is the culmination of like 6 or 7 years worth of storytelling that we've been able to follow on Disney Plus. Like, there's more time we've spent in the Mandoverse than in the original trilogy on live action, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
you have all these episodes. That's hours and hours of content.
Hours and hours, yeah.
So we've spent more time with Din and Grogu than we ever did with Luke, Leia, and Han in the original films and the sequels combined. This is going to be huge. I'm so excited for it. I think my question is, do you end it with a possible Ahsoka or Thrawn death to wrap up their stories? Or if they know this is going to be big, do you leave it open for maybe a trilogy that Dave could actually tell his whole story here?
Hang on. I want to bring up something about the Han Luke Leia thing real quick. About, do you put them in the trailer or do you keep them secret? It doesn't matter, because if you don't put them in, hear me out. If you don't put them in the trailer, word's going to get out that week, and the very next weekend, that's when everybody's going to go. That's exactly what's going to happen. If you put them in the trailer, it's first weekend. You're going to have a line around the block. You're going to be selling out shows. If you put out a trailer that has Han, Luke, Leia, Chewie, Lando, the droids, the Millennium Falcon fighting the Chimera with Thrawn on the bridge of this thing, you're going to break the internet. You're going to sell every ticket possible. You're going to have to be canceling shows of other movies the same way they did. Remember when the first Avengers came out? They were canceling other shows to make Avengers showings because they were just selling out. That's what's going to happen here. People think we're crazy, Steven, but it's going to happen. I'm telling you right now. And even if you don't put them in the trailer, you give it a week. Word gets out that Han, Luke, Leia are in this, it's game over. So, sorry, go ahead, guys. Keep giving your thoughts.
It'll be the film that, people wanted from the sequel trilogy. I really
Yes.
think people went into it thinking it was going to be Luke, Leia, and Han, and they were supporting roles. And they'll probably still be supporting roles in this to focus on Din and Bo and whatever. But even at their prime right there, and again, if you're adapting Air, I just want to see them so badly. Like, it has to happen, even in a small role.
Oh, yeah.
The technology's there.
It is.
What do you guys think?
It
JG
is.
and Usef, what do you think about this?
I mean, I think if you're doing an adaptation of Heir to the Empire and that story and such, I do think they need to be in it. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting because like the whole story, as we're seeing it, we're focusing on these main characters. It's gonna be a la basically a Star Wars Avengers, essentially. All these characters teaming up to go up against Thrawn.
Right.
It's basically where we're heading, which is really
you're right. You're not
in
wrong. It
an
basically
interesting, unique way. I think they do I do think this is like a one and done. I think, we will see the demise of Thrawn. I do think we'll also see the end of Ezra and Ahsoka. I think that this is going to be a way for Filoni to be able to send his characters off in one big film where people who have been following these characters since they were kids. I was in middle school watching the Clone Wars. To think that like 20 years later, I'm going to be watching my favorite character on the big screen and end her story once and for all is just like mind-blowing to me. And just the potential is so huge there. And I think it's also because of the fact that there's always going to be this word of like, it's going to be like an Heir to the Empire adaptation. That's what it's pointing to. You're going to bring in those legend fans, even all the butthurt people who hate the sequels. Guess what? They're going to come and see it just because it has the name Heir to the Empire. They're going to come see it because it has Thrawn. They're going to come see it because it's Paleon. Like, that is enough to get all those people who normally probably wouldn't go see it. They're going to come see it. And then all of us who are all like drinking the Kool-Aid, we're all going to see it anyway. So it is going to make a crap ton of money. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a huge heavyweight between that and the Avatar franchise. I'm very curious to see how that's all going to play out. But what's your thoughts, Usef?
Yeah, no, I completely second everything you just said. I just, to play the other side of the coin here from what you've had these characters since you were young, right? I haven't. I've only ever had personally. I've only ever had access to the main movies. I had access to some comics. I just figured, oh, they're probably not important. Look at me now. But yes, the idea is that I'm just going to reiterate something about Thrawn being the villain, which Star Wars deserves for a long time now. Star Wars fans deserve this, and even fans who have tried to embrace Star Wars, they need to see someone other than Vader and Palpatine and all that. They need to see that. They need to see that come to fruition. The people that are going to show up, they're going to show up simply because everybody who wanted their family and their friends to love Star Wars, and they gave it a shot and they just didn't like it, or they saw how toxic Star Wars fans could have been against each other. Every single Star Wars fan will go, just give this movie a try. Just come over. We're all waiting for this one. We're all very excited. Just come over. And for me, honestly speaking, Ahsoka has been one of my favorite characters since I've met her. Ezra, I'm still midway through Rebels. I'm really liking his story. It's fantastic. Thrawn is amazing. I want to read, I know this isn't really something that I wanted to do, but there are books of Thrawn which are in the Legends, their category. They're not canon. I want to read those because I just want to understand what I'm getting myself into. Even if I read them, in a passerby sort of thing, and I try to exclude it from being Star Wars. So I'm sort of having that little mini debate with myself as well, because there's so much to read and catch up on for me, because I'm behind all of you guys. But yeah, I'm just really excited. There's so much to look forward to, so much new stuff that we're getting. I think Stephen is right. I think they'll leave it potentially open for more storytelling. I think this will be, I can't really predict what's going to happen. I just think that this will be a full circle for Ahsoka. Because technically she does have content to back her up. You know what I mean? Yeah. I can't really do a lot of predicting on the storytelling side, but I can say that every single person who used to want to love Star Wars will actually, really pay attention to this one.
You guys mentioned earlier how, Han, Luke, and Leia could appear in this movie, not necessarily be main roles. Which I totally agree with. If they're in it, they're going to end up being supporting roles. Totally agree with you. You got to keep in mind, Dave Filoni never shoehorns characters in just to shoehorn them in. And even during Celebration, him and Jon Favreau, who obviously is going to be working on this film as well, he even made the comment, the way we decide which characters to use is who's in play at the time, who's in play in the galaxy right now. If we need a Jedi to come get Grogu, who's in play? It's Luke Skywalker, so you bring Luke Skywalker in. Even if it's a legacy character, you bring them in. At some point, you've got to start having these giant implications from the galaxy at large on your smaller scale show. And so, who's in play right now? If you have the New Republic going against the remnants of the Empire, and it's Grand Admiral Thrawn, the smartest, most ingenious tactician the Empire ever had, there is a serious threat there. There's a massive threat there to the New Republic. Who comes out of retirement? Obviously, Luke Skywalker is a Jedi. He's going to be fighting there. Han and Leia, he's a general in the Rebel Alliance. He's obviously going to come out. Leia's obviously going to get involved. There's no way you do this without showing Han, Luke, and Leia at some point. There's no way. There's no way that you don't do this battle and the Millennium Falcon is not leading it front and center just like it did during the entire Civil War. There's no way. It's going to happen. It makes sense.
I was wondering if Snoke was going to show up and betray Thrawn and then leaves Thrawn to die.
Oh, Snoke? You know what? We'll get that story somewhere down the line. Yeah.
I think Snoke's showing up.
Yeah. So let me ask you guys this. Let me pose this question to you guys. It's a two-parter. Okay. First off, do you think? Because right now the Star Wars fan base is incredibly divided. It's incredibly divided with everything we've talked about so far about this movie and the potential for how massive this could be. Could this be the movie that reunites Star Wars fans? And do you use the title for the movie Heir to the Empire?
Star Wars fans.
I think it's two legitimate questions. What do you guys think?
You are absolutely. They are very legitimate questions, and the answer to the first one is no. Star Wars fans will never be united.
But I
That
feel
is
like
just BS.
Celebration this year, don't you think, Yusuf, helped? I feel like looking at the discourse on social media has been more positive than it's been in a while. I feel like in all the reactions to yesterday's Mandalorian, like I haven't seen a lot of negativity. So like to answer your question, Brian, I think there are people that love the original trilogy. There are people that love the Mandoverse. There are people that love the books from the Legends time period. So you are now appealing to multiple subsets of Star Wars fans, and you are going to get seats in butts in theaters right here. We're going to fill up these theaters because it doesn't matter if you grew up watching the original trilogy. This is your sequel to that. It doesn't matter if you read Heir to the Empire. This is a live action adaptation.
Right.
If you love Mandoverse, which so many people do because of Grogu,
Even
and Din
non-Star
and the
Wars
story,
fans watch Mando.
Yeah.
Yeah.
even people that don't see the movies, they will go see this because this is the culmination. They want to see the big finale of what they've been following with these characters for 5-6 years at this point.
JG.
Oh my goodness.
I know it's a lot. I know it's a lot.
I'm a glass half full. Actually, people usually tell I'm a glass full kind of guy, not half full. But I want to believe that Star Wars fans can come together and unite behind this film. History has shown that is not likely to happen. I want to be optimistic that this can do it, and I think Dave Filoni is the person to do it with the assistance of Favreau. And I do think that if they are really taking the beats of the book and they're really adapting it, changing a little bit here and there, minusing a character that just does not work, yeah, I think you go for it. I think obviously you get permission. Apparently they've talked and such to Zahn, but you get permission. He's okay with it. I say go for it. Why not? I mean, you know, if people aren't gonna like it, they're gonna be pissed anyway. So you know what? Why not? Let's go for it.
I think it's got a potential, man. I really do. And out of all three of them, I think this is going to be the one that is the most successful. I just because it's like you said earlier, it's taking risks. But it's still established by character. It's still based off characters that are already established that everybody knows and loves. Like Steven was saying, even people who don't watch Star Wars watch Mandalorian. Everybody knows who Baby Yoda is.
Yeah.
They may not know his name is Grogu, but everybody knows Baby Yoda. Everybody.
Absolutely.
Everybody knows Baby Yoda. My cat knows Baby Yoda. Everybody. And so, yeah, it's going to be massive. So, dude, if this movie comes out in 2026, like I've been making the joke at work, I've been changing my eating habits because I want to be here for it. I quit smoking so I could be here for my son. I wouldn't change my eating habits for him. I'm changing my eating habits for Star Wars to make sure I'm here. So, I mean, this is, like I said, I've never in my life, I know, I've never been this excited for a Star Wars project in my life. And that is saying something. I have never, I'm going to have a heart attack in this movie. I'm going to, it's going to be bad. So, Mandalorian crossover event, the one that Kathleen Kennedy talked about, coming possibly 2026. And it's my number one most anticipated Star Wars ever. Nothing's going to dethrone it until it comes out. So the third movie that they announced is going to be a new Jedi Order movie directed by Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. It's set 15 years after the rise of Skywalker, and will follow Rey as she rebuilds the Jedi Order. And it's looking like this is probably going to be the next movie released, since the script is like 4, 5, 6 weeks out from being turned in. I think JG, you said May is when the script is getting turned in. So, what are your guys' thoughts on this one?
So this is not my most anticipated Star Wars project, but it is definitely my most anticipated film. I'm very excited for what's going to happen, with the New Republic film. I'm very excited to see what they're going to do with Dawn. But I adore the character of Rey and what she represents and what she means. That journey, that the reason how I got reinvigorated back into Star Wars, back whenever there was that gap of time for me. I'm just very, very excited just to see. I'm always excited about the future and what comes next. It's always exciting to look in the back, but there's something special about looking forward. So I'm always excited. I'm very I feel like there is so much potential, just like there is, with the Dawn of the Jedi. like this, they could do. I think the door's practically wide open here. We could, we'll probably have Finn. I don't see how this film exists without Finn. And I would be very shocked if we don't have Grogu at this point. Grogu should be at this point getting ready to start teaching younglings as well. And I mean, a film centered on like those three characters and such, with obviously Rey leading it. My gosh, we're in for a treat, I feel. And I think honestly, there's a lot of love for that character and for those stories. I know a lot of us older Star Wars fans could have our reasons for distaste for those films, but I think it's very similar to back when the prequels came out. There's people that are in their teens and younger who adore these films, who adore Rey, who adore Poe, and all these characters. And I think it's exciting that they don't have to wait like 30, 40 years for the next story for their characters. So I'm very excited for this.
Usef?
I'm cautiously optimistic because firstly I do love Rey. For everything the sequel trilogy has not done for me, there's so much that the sequel trilogy has done for me. Honestly, that is my opinion, really. I want to see that. I want to see a legacy continue. I want to see a fresh Star Wars story with the positives that I took out of that. And I want to be mean and say, I want to stop hearing about Han, Luke, Leia, Anakin. I want to stop hearing about them just a little bit. You know what I mean? Not because they're bad. Of course, they're amazing and they are the core. But I love this universe, and this universe is more than just these group of people now. And I want more of that. I want more people. I want more different stories. I want more stories. I'm worried that the Rey trilogy might. I'm just calling it that for now. But this next Rey trilogy would be. I want it to be a trilogy, first of all. That wasn't established fully, but yes. I want it to be a big set of films with a lot of stuff going inside it as well. A lot of meat and potatoes, to quote Brian. But just the thing is, I don't want her to be another chosen one, and then that rises and this falls. That could be the answer that I'm looking for, but yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. I just really I want this to work because this is a continuation. So this isn't going back anymore. So the way I see this for myself, there's the primary Star Wars story, the Anakin Skywalker, the Skywalker saga. And that is from episode 1 all the way up to episode 9. And I know it, and I know the ins and outs of it and what's going on, and I can see so many dynamics of these characters, of the universe, and they all have their strengths and they all have their stories, and they're amazingly epic. I mean, you could say that the history of the Earth could basically be the Roman Empire, for example. And then you could say, well, what happened here was how Persia handled this, and how Egypt handled this, and how the Saracens did this eventually, and how this Byzantines came about, and down, whatever. But so you'll always have this huge set of history going in, all the bits and ins and outs of it. And you keep going back to build on it. It could be a main story that you're following and you love this niche, but you know that this is not the main story. The main story is Skywalker saga. That's kind of always going to be in the back of your mind, no matter what happens. Taking it forward, you're now going to say, ooh, let's see what's new. What comes after the Skywalker saga? Because what comes before it isn't necessarily going to be more important simply because it's Star Wars. The fact that it happened already, it's always going to be in the back of your mind. It's kind of like a subconscious thing where it's not as important because it happened before, or it's leading us up to this moment, and this moment is more important. That's kind of how I take on this. I might be wrong. You guys might tell me, no, you don't have to read it in like that. It's just I just read it like that for some reason. Yeah.
And
so I'm cautiously
Usef,
optimistic, and I want the next sequel to be really cool. Sorry, yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Usef, you said you wanted a trilogy because I mean we're so used to thinking of Star Wars in trilogies.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
do
true.
you want this
I
to
want a
be
set of
10, 11,
movies.
and 12, or do you think we need to have the numbers for the saga
Steven was
films
the
continue?
one. He was
Open
the
the
one to
bear.
pop the
Open the
cork.
bear.
There we go.
I don't want it to be a 10, 11, 12. Let me say that. Because I want the Skywalker saga to be a Skywalker saga, and I want Rey, who is now, is she Rey Skywalker? Is she not? To me, it depends on the context. Depends on what she's doing. Depends on how it sounds, depends on where she's going, depends on who she has on board. Is she teaching? Is she training? Is there a new Jedi? Are there still Jedi? Has she abolished the concept entirely? Has she listened to Luke and why this whole concept of Jedi has to end? Is it different? What is coming up next? Is Darth Maul still around? I don't know. Is something, who is coming out? What happens? That really depends on that. Does she need to be a Skywalker to fight that through? Does she not? Can she just be Rey? Can she be Rey who is manifested in the Force, which is something which I would fall in love with. I'm not entirely against Rey being a Skywalker. I'm not pro it, but I'm not entirely against it either. So, but for 10, 11, 12, the fact that 1 through 9 for me, if there's anything that happens before Episode 1, well, how come that doesn't get a number, and how come those get numbers? So you know what I mean. So if you say 10, 11, 12. If you say it because it's a continuation of this specific story, then in my opinion, it automatically means that the concept of Rey being a Skywalker has to come up. Whether it's in confirmed or if it's negated, it has to come up. Because you're continuing what happened in Episode 9, and literally the last lines of that film was Rey Skywalker. So you can't just neglect that and say, oh, that never happened. Let's do some fan service and wipe some memories, This isn't Men in Black. This is Star Wars. So 10, 11, and 12, the concept of that is just, for me, what happened before 1? So if this is all continuation, then I better see Luke Force Ghost. I better hear about him. I'm going to have to hear about him. I'm going to have to hear about Vader. I'm going to have to hear about them somewhere in 10, 11, and 12. Or in whatever next movies are going to come out. Again, I'm not saying it has to be a trilogy. I just want more movies. So I'm happy to go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm happy for it to be another 9 movies. I'm good. Like, it's all good. But yeah, so that's just where I stand on it. I hope I explained myself correctly. I hope I made sense. If I didn't, please, you guys got to tell me. It's getting really late where I am. So I'm gonna start fasting in a bit. Where's my water? Yeah. I'm sorry. Well, did that make sense? Just give me confirmation.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll jump in. I'm excited. I think seeing Rey back so soon is kind of surprising. But like JG said, there were a lot of well, and it's like, George Lucas always said that Star Wars was designed for like 12-year-olds that are going into adulthood. And so here's the thing, the 12-year-olds, the 10, 11, 12-year-olds that saw Rey when they were 10, 11, and 12 are now going to be literal almost adults, because we've been now 4 years since Rise of Skywalker, and it'll be 5 or 6 years at that point. So these kids, when they were preteens, are now going to be adults going off into the real world, and this was their hero. This was their Luke Skywalker. And so the fact that she is now going to be leading the Jedi, and like you said, JG, hopefully teaching Finn. I mean, could we see Grogu? Absolutely. He's still going to be around at that point unless he dies, which they're not going to do that. My only hesitation I am worried about is Damon Lindelof, who I really like as a writer. He wrote for Watchmen, he wrote for Lost. Like, he was someone that had been working on a script for over a year and just recently stepped away because of creative differences with Kathleen Kennedy, with Lucasfilm. Whatever happened, we'll never know this true story. But if you have someone that's been working on a story and hopefully, like Usef said, planning a trilogy, planning like the long-term goal that the sequel trilogy did not have, and you walk away and now you still expect this movie to stay on track with a new writer, that makes me a little bit nervous, just because that's a huge change. But on a positive, I got to hold it up. Got to see my favorite lightsaber kind of come into play here. So I'm excited to see how that comes into play, because we only saw it for 1 second in the end of Rise of Skywalker. What about you, Brian? I think we know some of your thoughts, but tell us a little bit more.
Oh boy. Oh boy, here we go.
Flashback
First off,
to last night.
oh my God, me and JG, man, if the phone hadn't been between us, oh man. All right, so yeah, JG and I about got into a fist fight over this last night. I think I was laughing during it. It was in good nature, but I'm of the mindset we can all disagree. If we all agreed about everything, what would we have to talk about? So you guys know where I stand with the sequel films. First off, like, to build off of what Usef was saying with the episodic numbers, this is something that matters to me, and don't ask me why, but it matters to me.
Okay. No, that's cool.
The like you said, the story of the Skywalker saga was the story of Anakin Skywalker and kind of his rise, his fall, and his redemption. And so I'm of the mindset that did 7, 8, and 9 need to be 7, 8, and 9? And so could they have just been kind of their own story, their own trilogy, if you want to call it a trilogy, because I don't feel like that's a trilogy. But anyway, I digress. But, make them their own standalone thing with, Luke and Leia and Han appearing in them, kind of like Vader popped up in Rogue One, and kind of being that supporting character there. And those characters, did that need to be 7, 8, and 9? That's a question I'm asking myself. And that question just popped in my head since we talked last night because, I was sitting there like, man, did it need to be though? I mean, because they make a lot more sense as novels, in my opinion. I think that trilogy works a lot better as novels. So did it need to be 7, 8, and 9? It's a story. I mean, it's a story like you guys said that a lot of people grew up with, and to them, that's their Star Wars. That's the heroes they grew up with, and that's what they'll always remember. And so I'm not against the fact that they're doing this movie, but I feel like they're in a little bit of a dilemma now. Because I feel like they kind of have their hands tied that this has to be episode 10. It has to be. Because of what, you guys were talking about. The last line of 9 was Rey Skywalker. So that kind of ties their hands, in my opinion, with this movie. That if the movie is about the only living Skywalker, if she really is a Skywalker, and she is the last living Skywalker, that is the continuation of the Skywalker saga. You can't just end it because, we have a new Skywalker, and then, boom, that's the end of it. That Skywalker goes on to rebuild a Jedi Order, which is a huge deal for the galaxy. That's a huge accomplishment for a Skywalker, a member of the Skywalker family. So I feel like that should be included in the Skywalker saga, And so is this episode 10? Are they going to announce that this is episode 10? And if they don't, and this is just a rhetorical question, is Disney backtracking on the Rey Skywalker thing? Because that was a very divisive thing in 9, was the Rey Skywalker thing. A lot of people had their opinion about what Rey should have been. I'm of the mindset she should have stayed a nobody. I'm, at the end of it, Rey who? Just Rey. I think that should, because to me it gives the message that it doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. And it's the same message both ways. People can apply the same message to any of the 3 different options that there were for who she was. But I like it as, my parents were literally nobodies. I'm nobody, but I ended up being something, And so I stand behind that message more. I think that's a bigger message, a more important message, considering Leia told Rey, don't be afraid of who you are. And the fact that she was so afraid of who she was as a Palpatine, she changed her name, and that's just my opinion. But is this episode 10? I'm going to say they're going to have to call this episode 10 in order for it to make sense. Because, I mean, if they had not called 7, 8, and 9, then no, I don't think it would have mattered if this was, obviously it wouldn't be 10, but I don't think it would matter if it had a number attached to it. But because they've already went down that road, like you were talking about earlier, Stephen, with the opening crawl in the movie, is it going to bug you that 2 movies don't have an opening crawl? Yeah, it's going to bug me. So now it's going to bug me that we have more movies about Skywalkers in the future that aren't a part of the Skywalker saga. So JG, let me have it. I know you're sitting there itching to defend Rey, and I know you are, and I'm going to let you do it. So let me have it. Let's see what you have to say about it.
Yeah, because I've been trying to think about it and really try to put words to my thoughts and my beliefs. Because ultimately, I don't know. They could always change everything, but I just really do feel like that was finite, that was the end of that chapter, that story. And it happens to be called the Skywalker Saga as it focuses around the Skywalkers versus Palpatine, which is ultimately what 1 through 9 was about. It was about Skywalkers versus Palpatine. And I think that chapter really does officially close, especially more so with her, Rey, burying the sabers at Tatooine. This is it. We are now putting to rest the story, this chapter, this saga is now complete. Whatever comes next is a new story and a new saga. I don't think that they're gonna call it 10. I don't think we're gonna get another. I don't think there will be another Star Wars movie that has a episode number, fill in the blank, whatever. I think they will all just be titled whatever they are. Maybe they'll have a trilogy, like a title in front of it or whatever. Like if we get a trilogy of Old Republic films, maybe they'll call it the Jedi Sith War or something. We'll have 3 films under the Jedi Sith War. But I don't think we're getting numericals anymore. I think while they want to keep it into the same flavor and the same tone of Star Wars, by doing that, they're always going to have the same themes. They're going to have the crawl. We're going to have some hints of John Williams' music, obviously some new composers. But I think one way to continue to separate and to tell that this is a new saga is to drop the numbers. This is no longer that story of the Skywalkers versus Palpatine. Palpatine is gone. My gosh, if we ever have to talk about him returning again, I don't even know.
Somehow Palpatine returned again.
I don't even know what I would do at that point. That would be frustrating, but that's not going to happen. And Rey as of right now, until Disney changes something, Rey is a Skywalker because, I mean, obviously the writers chose it, but the character herself chose it. And I guess I will just take this quick moment just to bounce off what you said, Brian, is that, I don't know, I was very much into the camp of like, oh, I love that she's like from a nobody. She's creating her own destiny, her legacy. But I think that still holds true because now she's able to take that choice. Now that she has that revelation that she is a Palpatine, she's able to reject that and be able to choose. Like, I'm a huge proponent and a huge champion for like found family, being the fact that, like, my goodness, look at this podcast. Like, we all are not blood, but we're essentially brothers. And I think Rey ultimately knowing that, yes, she came from nobodies. Like, you look at the book, Shadows of the Sith or Secrets of the Sith.
Oh, great book too.
All the stuff that happened in there, to then finding out the fact that she is a Palpatine, to then rejecting that and just saying like, no, like, I know who my people are. I know who trained me, who was by my side during the darkest days here. And she is carrying that mantle to the point where I think actually she's going to create rebrand. I hate using that word. That's so Earth. But she's going to rebrand the Jedi Order as the Skywalker Order. I think that's how they're going to move forward. I know there might be some Chiss fans who are not happy, but I think that's where we're going.
The Skywalkers, yeah.
Yeah.
Time will tell, man. And I'm hoping that, in 2 years, 3 years, we get back on this show, and I'm hoping that I'm wrong. And I'm hoping that this turns out to be an amazing Star Wars movie. I'm hoping that they do it, and, I'm like, oh, no, that worked. I'm really glad, because, like I said, the sequels were very divisive, and I'm hoping that this is a film that can kind of change the way a lot of people look at Rey, and maybe even look at the sequel films. I'm hoping I'm one of them. I'm hoping to get some cool stories. So yeah.
Brian, something you haven't said is what you want to see from this.
Out of this one,
they're gonna have to. Yeah, out of this one, because would you like seeing Rey back? Would you want to see her back, or would you not? And what do you want to see with Rey?
I'm confused by it.
You want to see Finn back?
To be honest, Finn would be cool. It'd be cool to see Finn come back. I think that would make a lot of sense, especially considering they really alluded to his. Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. What did they describe this movie as? She's rebuilding the Jedi Order, and there's powers that be that don't want to see it happen, right? And that's what they're fighting against, is to basically get the Order rebuilt, right?
I think it literally just says that we're just seeing. I think it's just the description says that she's rebuilding the Jedi Order. Okay. Period.
Okay.
That's all we know.
Oh boy.
Finn would be a master at this point because 15 years.
15 years, yeah, that'd be
enough for him to get trained.
Right.
He's not an apprentice at this point. Which, I mean, there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of very interesting stuff there. I mean, you could bring in some of the exterior villains in the Thrawn Ascendancy books. That'd be really out of left field, but I mean, they're out playing around still. So,
do you see Rey as the main character of this new film / trilogy, or you see her as a legacy character?
You know what? That's an interesting point, because who was I talking to about that? Dang, I was talking to somebody. Oh, it was one of my buddies at work. We were talking about that. Is this movie a Rey movie? Because we keep calling it the Rey movie. Is this movie about Rey, or is she just the Grand Master, kind of like Yoda is, and kind of, because that's not, the prequels aren't Yoda movies, but he's there as the Grand Master. So that's an interesting point too. Are we going to get a whole new set of characters, and Rey is just kind of the one that sits in the background and, and has that weird British accent, that Coruscant accent?
What if Rey is off on a planet somewhere in isolation, and somebody has to go get her back?
They have to find the map to her.
Yes.
I hate you guys.
Rey
I hate you guys so much.
The delivery
What if
was
there's
Somehow
another
Ray
Star Wars
returned.
Sins?
Oh my god. Oh, I hate you guys so much.
I think that this is actually, I think this is going to be a massive actually coming of age story, being the fact that the director was a director of 2 episodes from Miss Marvel, and a huge coming of age story. It was very
I really
beautiful,
liked
well
Miss
done.
Marvel, yeah.
It's like my favorite Marvel. I've rewatched it like 6 times. I'm in the middle of my 7th rewatch. I adore that show, and I think that director just tells a really compelling story with young characters, and I think it is going to focus on Ray. I think it's going to have Ray and then a new young apprentice or someone, not Broom Boy. That'd be kind of dope, but not Broom Boy. My favorite sequel character. But I really do think that it's going to be something different than people are expecting. Like, while I think Ray will be a very eccentric character, and we'll have Finn in the background, we'll have Grogu in the background. We're going to be building a whole new school. I think we're going to have a new star, and it's going to be like Ray's first like youngling apprentice.
I think a lot of people are expecting this to basically be episode 10. I think is not necessarily in number, not necessarily in title, but I'm thinking
in story,
right? And I think that's what a lot of people are kind of expecting at this point is the fact that she's coming back, and I'm kind of confused by it because the sequel films, like you said, a lot of people love the sequel films, but they were divisive, and so why would you go back to that? But at the same time, when you announce 3 movies and I'm excited as hell for 2 out of the 3, that's a win. Like you said, there's something for everybody. There's something for the sequel fans. There's something for the classic fans. There's something, so there's something for everybody. We don't necessarily have to like everything. Not everything is for everybody. So I'm okay with it. I can live with it. I just... we'll see how it goes. I hope it's good. I really do. I really hope it's good.
I think it's going to age like fine wine for you, Brian. I think it's going to really grow on you.
Solo is starting to grow on me, and I've been saying that for like 4 years. Solo is starting to grow on me a little bit.
I love Solo.
I wasn't a fan of it when it first started, and it's funny because the sequels went the opposite direction for me. I really liked them until 9 came out, and I was like, that was stupid. So I just, I hope I like them. I really do. So we'll see how it goes, and maybe, and if I don't like it, maybe there'll be enough other new Star Wars stuff that I do like to kind of, dilute it and water it out so that I don't hate it as much. So we'll see. Like I said, I'm just kind of confused that they would go back to Rey. But at the same time, I'm not, because that's basically their baby. Rey is the tentpole character they came up with, and so it makes sense that they want to keep making movies based off of her. So anyway, those are the 3 movies we have to look forward to in the next several years. We kind of talked about the Taika Waititi film a little bit. They didn't really show anything, but my heavy speculation is that it's Old Republic. Like I said, I have nothing to back that up. I just, with the time periods they showed, they didn't say a word about that time period. Not a word about it. They talked about the Dawn of the Jedi. They talked about the rise of the new Jedi Order. And the New Republic, they didn't say a word about it. They were just like, bloop, hey, hope nobody sees that, So I think we'll see. Anyway, the next big project that's coming out, though, after Mando is done next week, is Ahsoka. And we finally got a release date for Ahsoka. It's coming out in August. We got the trailer. Those in attendance got to see the trailer. They released it online. And, Mary Elizabeth Winstead is officially confirmed to be playing Harrison Dule. I think we all... kind of saw that one coming. That was almost as jaw-dropping as when they finally announced Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo. It was like, oh, finally you told us, thank God, So, but the big news I think out of that one is that Lars Mikkelsen is coming back to play the live-action version of Grand Admiral Thrawn. Before the night before Celebration, the night before they announced all this stuff, I knew from somebody at Newsnet that Dave Filoni was going to be directing a Star Wars movie. I kind of had that dropped on me, but they didn't say what it was going to be. They just said he was going to be directing one. And so I said something to Kirsty about it, and she was like, what if he's doing the crossover event? And I'm like, no, that's just going to be on Disney Plus. Hindsight's 2020, because looking back now, that just made all the sense. And I was like, no, that's not going to happen. But we started talking about Thrawn and, who could play Thrawn and everything like that. And I brought up Lars Mikkelsen, who voiced him. The fact they got him back to play him, and you're gonna have that same buttery molasses voice, that same accent, that same speech pattern. Bring it on, man. That to me, that's the biggest thing out of this Ahsoka trailer was the Thrawn stuff. I'm so excited for it. What are you guys looking forward to the most out of this series? We only have to wait like 3 or 4 months for this. So what are you guys looking forward to?
I want to see amazing lightsaber action. Yeah.
That's it. He's just like lightsabers. That's it.
Lightsabers.
I wanna watch I wanna go on a ride. I wanna be
Yeah.
excited. I wanna see Ahsoka. I wanna be excited, and her story's so cool. She's so unique. The experiences she's been on is so amazing. We're gonna get a full. How many we don't apart from Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Cal Kestis, we do not follow any other Jedi apart from those, obviously, in Rebels that come up and so on. Jedi, the Ahsoka is basically the one that we want to dive into a little bit even deeper and to get a one-on-one with her, being the Jedi that has survived Order 66, that has been through so much, that has seen what the Jedi was, that has learned, that has been through all of this learning, and she's something special now. So I want to see this special stuff, and I want to see live act. I want an action sequence. I want an amazing Star Wars. I want some more action. I'll be honest with you. I'm in the mood for action. Not philosophy with Ahsoka. You know what I mean? Like Mando is great action, but I want to see some Jedi action.
That little lightsaber, that little clip we got of the lightsaber battle with Ahsoka, and I can't think of the guy's name right now. Was that in the World Between Worlds, or was I crazy?
It looked like it.
It looked like it.
Very much.
So is that where these two are coming from? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I don't know.
Hazard a guess.
I don't know because we've never seen the orange lightsabers before, and that looks sick. I mean, when for some reason I don't know what it is in my brain. For some reason, when I see those orange lightsabers, my brain goes instantly to EU like novel covers. For some reason, it looks like Heir to the Empire. And and she even mentioned the words "Heir to the Empire," and if Peter Griffin was like, "Oh, there it was," and so it's. This dude, I'm pretty sure that was the World Between Worlds, and I don't know if it's her trying to keep them from coming through or what. I don't know. I don't even know their story. They may not even be what you think they are, So, what do you guys think's going on here?
I think I'm really glad that I'm rewatching Rebels. I'm on season 2, and Usef, I really hope that you do get a chance to finish it before August because this is.
Oh no, I'll definitely finish it before June, before May.
And we're not going to spoil it for you, but like the ending. Like JG, Brian, and I have been on a cliffhanger for how many years now?
6 years? 7 years?
And we're finally so close. We are months away from seeing the end of this cliffhanger, not just in the animation, which would have been great, but in live action. Like, she is such an important character. As you can see, she's right behind me at all times. She is a character that I love. And when I went to see Clone Wars 2008, the animated movie, I walked out of there like, oh, what is this? Like,
same.
Anakin has a paddle. Like, she's a character that I never expected. I think a lot of us felt that way. Like she was someone that you snips. Yeah. Like she was this annoying little teenager that became as seasons 1, 2, 3 progressed. But I think by season 2 or 3, like I was in love with this character. I wanted to see her. I was nervous about what would happen with her with Order 66. And she's become such a fan favorite. Like there's such a cult following around Ahsoka.
Oh,
like she's not to the level of Grogu, but she's someone that non-Star Wars movie fans can get behind. And I think it's because, like, Ashley Eckstein has really promoted the brand of Star Wars outside of Clone Wars. And then the fact that, like, Rosario Dawson now taking on this role. And so, like, we are seeing such an awesome character. It's going to be so great to see her as the central focus. I cannot wait. This is one of my most anticipated shows.
And this is going to be, the sequel series, basically, to Rebels. Like you were talking about, we've been on this cliffhanger for... years, and there were times where we've talked and we're like, are they ever gonna go back to that? Did they just forget about it? Like what? Like are we just gonna get a stupid book somewhere that tells the story, or what are we gonna get for this? And here it comes, man. We're getting the entire Rebels crew back. Well, obviously minus, I won't say anything because Usef hasn't seen it all the way through, but no,
honestly, hang on. So we're talking here. How about this? I mean, just go for it. I'll act like I'm not paying attention.
No. Take your earbud out for a second.
For our audience,
you need to experience it.
You have to experience it. Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, you have to experience it firsthand because it's way more gut wrenching. Take your ear pod out for a second. No, so we're getting the show that's based, minus that, person.
Yeah.
And so it's something that's.
Hang on, I'll tell you what. Hang on, I gotta do something. I'll be back in 2 minutes. Honestly, I'm serious.
Oh,
Okay?
boy.
Go for it. For
Oh
real.
boy.
Okay, I'll be back in 2
Oh
minutes.
boy.
Oh
All right.
boy.
Put in the mic.
It's only going to
Here we
take
go.
10 seconds. So, but we're getting the Rebels crew minus
You got 2 full
Kanan.
minutes. I'll go and be right back.
Oh, he was still here. Hopefully he
still
didn't hear that. I thought he was already gone. So,
we just got Zeb. Do you guys
Yeah.
think we're going to see a reunion of Zeb and the other ones that are
Yes.
still with us? Like, are we seeing Hera,
Yes.
Sabine,
Yes.
all in one
Yes.
on the Ghost?
yeah,
Yeah.
that wasn't by accident. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Mandalorian seems to be the testing ground for a lot of stuff in Star Wars.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It was the testing ground for Ahsoka. It was, it's a really good place to try stuff out for the first time. They tested Boba Fett out, and so, yeah, I definitely think that was just a quick test for getting us ready for Ahsoka.
What about Jason Syndulla? Where is he? He's not mentioned. We haven't seen anything. Like, they're not going to just forget about him. He's got to show up too, right?
They're
Right.
holding him back.
Yeah.
Is he going to be in the Rey movie?
That's possible.
But aren't they going to at least reference him or show where he's at? Because
They're gonna have to.
Probably.
He's
Is he a-
he's in it because Mary was doing an interview today, and she was talking about motherhood and how she's a mother to Sabine and Ezra, and the interview person was like, well, "What about Jason?" And she's like, "I'm not allowed to talk about that."
Yeah.
He's a huge part of it. It's like
So-
he's a key.
Is he with Luke? Is he training at
let's,
this point?
Let's not do that. Let's
You know
stop
what I
that.
mean?
Stop
Like,
that.
so-
We're not doing that. We're not doing that. Stop it. He's not burning, okay? I cannot. No, stop it, Brian.
Is
He's
there any
not
chance
burning.
he could be like? Could Jason be the MacGuffin of this, like how Grogu was in the first season of Mandalorian? Because he's the son of Kanan. Is there any way he could become a key player that they're going after? Maybe.
Brian gets his hand on him.
You know what? That's an interesting point. That's a very interesting point. I didn't think of it that way, but
And we just found out in Mando that they're doing the whole clones, and he talked about using Jedi
yes,
and clones and
Yes.
Mandalorians. So what if Jason is one? I mean, we know Grogu was one, but what if Jason's also involved?
see, my brain went straight to the Shadow Trooper program from Jedi Outcast. That
Mhm.
was the first thing my brain went to, because that was the story where they were taking the Dark Troopers and infusing kyber crystals, different kyber crystals in Legends than what they are now, but kyber crystals with the power of the Force, and then giving them to these Shadow Troopers and basically making and giving them Cortosis armor and then making them Dark Jedi, basically. And so as soon as Gideon said taking the best parts from the Jedi, the clones, and the Mandos, I was like, oh boy, because we're already seeing Dark Troopers get upgrades.
Yep.
Upgrades. And so the ultimate upgrade, because Moff Gideon watched these things get cut down by a Jedi. He watched an
Yep.
entire squadron of them get taken out by one Jedi. He's going to be like, how do I defend these against a Jedi? Let's make them Force sensitive and give them lightsabers.
Yep.
So that's the only thing I can think of, is that's the natural trajectory that story is going with the Dark Troopers. It's oh man, I think Jason's going to be a big part of that. I really do.
Yep. There's only one thing I want more than the season 3 and season 4 soundtrack of Rebels, and that is the answer that is proposed at the end of Rebels. The question that has been on so many of our minds, and I am just dying to find out the answer and what that is and how they will show that. It's going to be a flashback. We're going to see the moment where Rebels ends, and we're going to see what happened next. There's no way Dave is not going to show that, because that is the question that has been asked by Rebels fans for 5 years now. And I really want that soundtrack, come on now, please. I've been begging for years for that season 3, season 4 soundtrack, but if I had to give that up for the answer to that question, it would be that. And I'm very excited. And it is a sequel. It's the Rebels show that
It's Rebels season 5.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. And we're gonna get that scene, JG. That's happening.
Oh, yeah.
I guarantee that's happening. Because when Ahsoka first popped up, and in season 2 of Mando, and she said, where's your master? Where's Grand Admiral Thrawn? Dave Filoni had to come out and say, well, okay, so this happens before the epilogue
Yes.
of Rebels. So when you see her in Rebels, she's already had her run-in with Din Djarin
Yep.
and Grogu and now this is the continuation
And
of that. And
Ahsoka
so,
too.
yeah, and so that's we're getting that scene. I promise you. The fact that they're, we keep seeing pictures of a live action version of that mural, that drawing of everybody from the. We're getting it. You don't even got to worry. I promise you, it's gonna be okay. We got it. It's coming. So, Usef, did you have a good 2 minutes?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
So anyway, the Ahsoka series is coming in August. Very excited about it. That is my second most anticipated project right now. And it's funny because it's going to lead right into the first one. So very excited for Ahsoka. We also got some stuff on Skeleton Crew, which I don't know if I want to say I'm excited for, but I'm interested in. Does that make sense? I'm intrigued by Skeleton Crew and kind of curious about it because they described it as kind of an Amblin production, like Goonies, something like that, where these kids in ordinary lives get thrust into an adventure. And growing up, I seem to be the only person that remembers this show on Nickelodeon when I was growing up, Space Cases. For some reason, see, you guys never saw it. Like, nobody has ever heard of Space Cases. And as a kid, that's what I grew up with. It was these kids in an intergalactic school that snuck onto this alien spaceship that just showed up, and the ship took off through a white hole. And then they were on it was basically Star Trek Voyager. That's basically what it was for kids. And so I keep getting the feeling like that's what this is going to end up being. They showed the trailer for those in attendance and kind of some behind the scenes stuff. But we got the revelation that Jude Law is playing a Jedi in this and that he's going to be the one kind of ushering these children. So,
Did they say Jedi or Force sensitive?
Oh,
Force sensitive.
Did they say Force sensitive? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
I'll concede.
I still want, and I don't know how it's possible, but the rumor online is maybe he's Lor Santeca, and I would love to see a young Lor Santeca. And he looks the part.
He
kind of looks at this time
does.
period. I think that would once again add to this idea that the Mandoverse is enhancing the sequel trilogy because he's in one scene till Kylo Ren slices him down.
Right.
But it's the very first, like one of the first characters you meet in the sequel trilogy. So like if we got his backstory here and saw him working with Luke or with these kids going out and finding artifacts, like it could work. It could work.
Oh my goodness! And if it is Santeca and they are looking for artifacts, what if he's looking for Force-related artifacts with the Santecas from the High Republic? Oh my goodness! Stop it! I think if I remember, because I remember reading about the line. I think I even watched it too, but I think it says like he uses the Force, and then a character says to him, "Are you a Jedi?" And I think it ends there or something like that. So,
okay. This is a project. Go ahead.
I wonder why they haven't said his character's name yet. If he's the lead,
Right.
like you think if it wasn't someone we already knew, they'd just say, "Oh, it's John" or whatever, make up a name.
Right.
I wonder if there's a reason they're holding back the main character's name yet.
That's a solid point too, because I mean they're giving it's celebration. If the show's, they said the show's supposed to come out this year, right? It's supposed to be like
probably like
Ahsoka
a
and then
December,
this, right?
Right?
And so
Like a December to January thing, maybe.
you would think we'd be getting a name. You're absolutely right. If we're getting the name for characters in Acolyte, we got the Wookiee Jedi name, and so yeah, why wouldn't we get his name yet? That's an interesting point. I haven't thought of that.
And that would have been the place to announce it, like
Oh yeah,
instead of a press release closer to the end of the year.
or
I
a
don't know.
trailer. Because we haven't seen the trailer yet, and we'll probably get a different trailer than what everybody did there.
But imagine the reaction at Celebration to hearing Lor Santeca versus just like if you were
Right.
reading it on a trailer. I mean, that's the place you do it with the Star Wars diehards right there.
Yeah.
unless it's a spoiler for like Ahsoka or something down the road, and they don't want to reveal that quite yet,
Maybe he'll show up
that's
somewhere else
possible, too.
first.
or
maybe.
even in the finale next week. I mean, anything is possible. It's on the same story.
Or it's going to be a huge reveal in the show itself. Because if he lies to these kids about who he is, and then at the end, at the end of the the show or the series or the season or whatever, and somebody's like, "That's Lor Santeca," we're gonna be like, "Awesome," and they're gonna be like, "Who?" So
You could have to do a
that's
cold
possible.
open, have a cold open for the show where the first scene is introducing the character, but it's because he's talking to Luke.
It's gonna be Lor Santeca getting ready to get cut down by Kylo, and you're gonna hear, "Brr." You're probably wondering how I got here. So, yep, that's me getting ready to get cut down by Kylo Ren. So
There's my backstory.
that's it. Well, let's go back 30 years. So no, that's funny. That's interesting. I haven't seen that anywhere. So I hope that'd be a really cool connective thread kind of through everything. And it kind of seems what they're doing is connecting everything to the sequels and kind of showing what's happening. So that's an interesting point. I'm glad you said that because I never once thought of that. So Skeleton Crew is supposed to be coming out this year. So it's probably going to be really late in the year. We also found out we're getting a second season of Tales of the Jedi, which I'm really excited for. And Dave Filoni just kind of dropped that as an aside, during the Clone Wars 15-year panel, and no trailer, nothing like that. And that was kind of the first announcement of it we got. So I really liked Tales of the Jedi. I really liked it. There was because Usef, I know you're a huge villain guy, and seeing some more backstory into Dooku and what happened with Yaddle, that was so good, and so we're getting another season of that. Bring it on.
Beautiful. Absolutely, yeah. And I'm hoping they're going to do other characters, absolutely. And I loved having Dooku be a focus of that, because as I mentioned before with you on an episode of this podcast, that I felt that I had, not seen enough of a backstory from Dooku, not seen, saw him as a kid and understood that I wanted to see more of his interactions with Palpatine. And that was amazing, his interaction with Yaddle and his conversation with Palpatine and all that, Sidious. That was amazing. And then seeing him and how he reacted to Qui-Gon's, oh, gosh. And even though it was just a bit of it, wasn't too much of it, it was just a bit. It was really, really, really cool.
It was just enough to show where the story took place. It was just enough so that you could place it on the timeline.
Impression and it gave me a physical embodiment or an animated embodiment, visual embodiment of that interaction, of him being so upset because of Qui-Gon's death, because that turned him to the dark side. Well, turned him to be with the Sith.
Right.
And that was insane. That was such an important thing. What could turn a Jedi to be with the Sith? Well, that pushed him over the edge. He was already disillusioned with Jedi, but that pushed him over the edge. And that was just so cool. It's something that is important for us to see, I think.
And there's so many different Jedi throughout. Again, we're talking 25,000 plus years of timeline here that they could focus on. Is there any chance, I don't think so, but is there any chance that on May the 4th, they surprise us with some type of, do they have some episodes, like 3 episodes in a hopper ready to go? Like, as a nice little treat to the fans, or would they really want to market it instead? Like, I know we just got season 1 back in October, but because they're shorts, is there any chance he surprises us with something on May the 4th this year?
They should.
If anything, it'd be a teaser, I think.
Yeah, I don't think, because we're getting Visions Volume 2 on May 4th.
Oh, that's right. So, and the High Republic Adventures.
Right. So, yeah, I think if they've been working on it for any amount of time, they might have something. But like I said, it's the first that he's said of it so far, and the first season didn't come out that long ago, and October. So it was, have they had enough time to even really get, hitting the ground running with some of the production for it?
I mean, animation's all done like a year or two in advance, so I would say that I would be as bold as say that they've already have recorded them. I would say that they're probably in the middle of animating them as we speak. Just to throw my theory out there, I would love to see, not to keep drinking the Kool-Aid, but I want to see a High Republic Jedi and a Jedi from the, right around the Clone Wars. And I want to see the contrast between the two, where it's really showing where everyone has thought that the Jedi of that around the Clone Wars and everything were really great and dandy, but then you realize, no, they're not. They're really far from it, and to the point where they literally let Palpatine take over. And I think just comparing the two Jedi would be such a unique and different story than what they did in the first season, where they had literally Ahsoka and Dooku, where they're both Jedi that fell, but they fell in different ways. I think telling two different, a light and a dark. What you just described
sounds awesome. Absolutely.
Or I'm going to up you one ante, JG. How about you show a character like Oppo Rancisis or Yaddle that lived through the High Republic and the Fall, and you show them their experiences and how they dealt with that 200-year gap and how they've lived through the best of the Jedi and the worst of the Jedi.
Ooh.
Here's an idea. We've had a couple of comics surrounding Darth Maul hunting Jedi down, right, as for sport and for practice and whatnot. What if we got a story from a Jedi Padawan from their point of view, where they're being haunted by this like phantom, right? And they have no idea who it is, and it's actually causing them to be afraid and fear. And it's Darth Maul hunting this Jedi down, but it's from their point of view.
I love
That's
it.
cool.
Sign me up.
Sign you up. It's Star Wars. Sign me up for all of it. I don't care.
It's horror. It's horror and Star Wars. Is what I've been wanting more than anything right now.
And speaking of horror and Star Wars, did you guys see the announcement? I didn't have it planned to talk about, but they're doing an Ewok comic. Did you guys see this?
It came out this week.
Did it really? Okay, I didn't know it was out. Oh my god!
They're doing like a series of 5 one-shots that lead. Like I read the last week's was all about Jabba the Hutt.
I have that
It was
one,
all about. It reminded me of like what's the book From a Certain Point of View, because it was a whole like 40-page issue that focused on. Remember that droid in Jabba's palace that's like screaming from pain? Yeah. And it's his backstory, like how.
Oh, the one hanging up.
Him. The translator, yeah.
Okay,
the droid. So it was a pretty good comic. I didn't read this week's the Ewok one. There's one coming up about Admiral Akbar. Like there are a bunch of one shots, and the first one was fine. And I'm curious what the Ewok one's gonna be like, though.
I love the fact that they're making an Ewok story, and it's almost like a horror story. I love it. You know, like Battlefront 2 came out, and we got Ewok Hunt. That was the most fun I've ever had playing Battlefront, and it didn't matter which side you were on. It was a blast. And so, yes, make these little terror teddy bears. Just make a story based off of them, you know, because everybody watched the Ewoks movie growing up, and they were these cute, cuddly, they were savages. They were savages. They were going to barbecue 3 living beings alive and eat them and feed them to those creatures like his sister. They're going to feed them to his sister. Yes, I want more of these. So, sorry, you were talking about horror and Star Wars, and that's what I want. I want more of that. And so,
absolutely.
Tales of the Jedi is getting a second season. Very excited for it. The Bad Batch will have a third and final season. We lost our beloved. We lost a member of the crew. I'm not going to ruin it in case you guys haven't seen it yet. We lost a member of the crew, and rest in peace. So then, you know, the guys that were left in the Bad Batch got kind of kicked while they were down, and kind of put into a horrible, impossible situation. So it's nice to know that we're getting at least one more season. I figured it would run 3 seasons. I thought possibly 4, but 3. That sounds like a good round number for it to end on. This season kind of acted as like the Empire Strikes Back kind of ending for the crew and kind of putting him in that dark spot. So, what do you guys want to see out of a third season for Bad Batch? Because we're really gearing up for this cloning stuff.
I need to see Boba Fett because I need to see the son and daughter of Jango Fett together.
Oh,
I want to see Boba Fett because, like, right now we're 1 or 2 years after Revenge of the Sith. I want to see a very young, again, Boba Fett with right after his fight with Cad Bane, or if that even happened in Canada, I can't remember. But I want to see him starting off as a bounty hunter and making a name for himself while also coming in contact with these other clones that have gone rogue. What about you, JG, Usef? What do you want to see with Bad Batch?
I wanna see something along those lines, like that heavy interaction. You know what I mean? Like that sort of the edge in that relationship, or the edge in the character. Does that make sense? The aggression. Yeah.
I want proper closure, which I think is why they're ending it with 3 seasons. But also, the StarWars.com article really has me confused and wondering what the heck they're doing, because the way that they worded is that, you know, it was announced at Celebration that the 3rd season would be the final season in the final part of this story. Final part of the story. What other part is there? So I'm very curious what on earth they mean. I think that's a very intentional wording. I don't know if that means we're going to get like a Rex and Cody type show and they're going to do all the clone shenanigans, or if we're going to follow more of the cloning saga, or what's to come. But I do feel that similar to how season 7 of the Clone Wars spawned the Bad Batch into that show, something in a couple episodes or so, it's going to spawn off into the next animated series, whatever that may be. And so I just hope that doesn't take precedence, and that they do just like they did for Rebels, just like they did with Clone Wars, and how they barely did it with Resistance, that they can close this chapter of this story properly.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to this to this season quite a bit. You know, this was a show that not a lot of people were excited for when they first announced it. And when they first announced, I was excited. Kirsty and I really, really enjoyed the Bad Batch episodes in Clone Wars. And so when they said they were doing Bad Batch, I texted her. I was like, Bad Batch is getting a series. And she's like, are you serious? Sweet. You know, and so I was one of the people that was really excited for it. And the fact that they're going to cut it short, I like the fact that they're doing these shows justice by not keeping them going just for the sake of keeping them going and actually giving them a beginning and a middle and an end. I think if Resistance had that third season, I think it would have really helped cap that show off a lot.
Yes.
And you know, with Rebels having 4 seasons, I think that was perfect. You know, and so it shows that they actually care about the story enough to end it and to keep it from getting watered down and becoming something that it's not supposed to be. So I'm excited that this is going to be the final season, and I'm hoping it's a really wicked season finale or a series finale. Bring it on. So the last show we're going to talk about, because we've been going for over 2 hours, guys. I didn't even feel like it. The Acolyte, which is a show that I keep forgetting about Acolyte for some reason. This is a show that everybody keeps mentioning. I'm like, oh, that is coming out. Yeah. I'm like, oh, that is coming out. I keep forgetting about it. So the trailer was shown for those in attendance at Celebration. The more times I say that, the more I just want to drop the money for a ticket next time and just go. JG, I think you said it's supposed to take place 100 years before Phantom Menace?
Yes.
Okay. So 100 years before Phantom Menace, it's in the waning days of the High Republic. And Jonas Suotamo is coming back to play a Wookiee Jedi. I think that's very appropriate that he gets to be the Wookiee and everything now. And the fact that he gets to be a Jedi, I think he's earned it at this point. So, Usef, I know you're excited for this show. You love the villain. What are you looking forward to the most in this show? And what are you hoping to get out of it, man?
I'm really excited that she's gonna, firstly, that it's a she. I'm really excited that we're gonna get it from a different time period. It's gonna be completely new. First time we're gonna see live action. It's gonna be in between High Republic and Phantom Menace. I'm really excited to see everything about. So this isn't just dark side; it's Sith, and this is important. I know that so far we haven't met anything else in dark side other than Sith in Star Wars, but other than the Mortis arc, which is technically just dark side, pure dark side. But yes, I want to see. I just want to see a build-up of a show which is really built on philosophy and mentality. What's going on? Why? Is it going to be, well, the dark side is just misunderstood, and we're at odds. We're at opposite ends of the spectrum, and we can get closer, but we just haven't seen it. So my what I want to see is really it's very philosophical. My targets, basically, or my hopes, I suppose. I don't really want to delve into it a little bit more. That I talked about it a lot last time we were on, but I want to hear your guys' opinions more, because actually, first off, when is it supposed to be again? So mid next year, right?
It's definitely next year. I don't think, did they say when
it's definitely
next year?
2024. Yeah. When mid or end of next or end of 24?
They didn't say.
Yeah, that feels like it's gonna, because Andor's coming out next year too, and that's gonna be like a summer release, like an August thing, isn't it? So so you got to look at first part or last part. Yeah,
this could be a May the 4th next year, maybe.
Yeah, it could.
Okay, no, I mean, the reason is that just I'm anticipating a lot of trailers and teasers and stuff, and I want to see where this goes. So I'm gonna be tracking that heavily, and I want to make sure that I get caught up for sure before that with every bit of information, with every bit of canon content that I can. If I have to read all the High Republic books, I'll do it. If I have to read other sort of, you know what I mean? Like, it's so important for me that I do that. It's, and also I have to bear in mind here that it's not necessarily going to be something so mind blowing. What it could be is testing the waters from Lucasfilm to see if they should give more of a certain vibe, of a dark vibe. I'm not sure if this is going to be a goth kind of show. I'm not sure if that's the case. I just want to make sure that it gives the other side of the coin, light side, Jedi, hero, this, that. What about, well, then why do people turn to the dark? Why is there a dark side in the first place? Why was Hitler? You know what I mean? Well, because
Ooh, he dropped the
we've
H
seen
word.
this. We've seen why. You know what I mean? Well, it's not the H word over here in this part of the world. So anyway, yeah. So the thing is, you know what I mean? Like, so if you took the biggest baddie and you had to analyze him, okay, you do. We've done that throughout evil people, badasses, and everything throughout history. So we've done this in other franchises as well. I'm sorry, it's just easy for me to grab this as an example. Thanos was absolutely perfectly explained in 2 movies.
Relatable.
Well, not perfectly, but
Yeah.
he was dissected, he was explained, he was looked into, and some people went out of the theater saying, Thanos fucking has a point, doesn't he? You know what I mean? Like, that was really what people thought, because it was so, it was so well explained that people were like, he has a point. You know what I mean? And then here in Star Wars we get zero. Well, not okay. It's not zero. It's just there's no spotlight on the dark side, on what's happening, who does what and why. Why are they in the dark side? People do go to the dark side for so many different reasons. Pelagius was all about the philosophy of the dark side, what he could do with it. It's just I want to use the dark side, and here's what I'm going to use it for, and so on. You know, what was his name? Darth Maul wanted, to be the finesse, the power. I want to have the wrath, and he was so sold on this sort of having an enemy in the Jedi, and I want to unleash my wrath. He was very physical. He was very emotional. He was very passionate. Whereas Darth Sidious just wanted control. He was a politician. He carried himself with an air of being, no, I'm better than all this. I deserve to have all of this, and I'm gonna get all of this. It's all these different reasons. Whereas Anakin had completely different goals, and then Vader, he became something else entirely. It was very twisted. It wasn't so clear cut. Yes, I want the dark side for these reasons. No. He wanted it. He wanted something else, and he thought he could get that through the dark side. Then he was there, and it was something. Yeah. So I just want to see a spotlight shown on that. Yeah. Sorry for my rant.
No,
Sorry for the
no
F word
rants.
and the H word.
JG.
Sorry for a lot of things.
I am just so freaking excited to see my favorite High Republic Jedi, Vernestra freaking Rowe.
Yes, that kind of
the
threw me
BA.
off.
Hey, can I tease something for you, Usef? What you're gonna see in the show?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
She has her lightsaber is a light whip.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
And it's purple.
And it can
And
go
purple.
back and forth between a blade and a whip.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So prepare
Wait,
yourself.
the same one turns into a blade and turns into a whip.
Yeah, she just
Yep.
turns the
Or is it a
emitter and
blade
it
and
goes,
whip?
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, dude. And what's really cool
She
is
loosens it, and then she's like,
there's also like a whole like character arc around it too, because she's afraid to tell her master about
Yep.
it, because she's afraid of kind of like
it's
what it
unorthodox.
means. Yeah, because of what it means and kind of
Okay.
the aggression behind a weapon like that. She's afraid to tell her master about it. So there's a huge character thing with it too. It's really cool, man.
And Usef, she was like one of the youngest Padawans to be knighted.
At
like
15.
that's part of her story too.
Yeah.
How old was she?
15. She was 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
she has this the weight of her shoulders. Like her master is like one of the key like High Republic characters like on the Jedi Council, like the figurehead of the Jedi at this point. And so like she has so much responsibility because she learned from the best, and she's considered to be like the best at this time period. And so she's a teenager, like Brian said, but now she's going to be 100 and some odd years at this point.
About 120, give or take.
That's wild.
I agree with JG because like JG and I think Brian too, like this is one of my favorite eras of Star Wars, and it's been so like connected, like the payoff of reading every comic and short story, whatever. I am gonna throw out a bet, and correct me if you think I'm wrong. They
Ooh.
mentioned the name of the Wookiee Jedi that Sutama is gonna be playing. I think he's actually playing an older version of Bur Yaga, but because his fate is left up in the air at the end of Phase 1, I think they didn't want to spoil that yet, because I don't think they actually killed him off.
Don't
I
get my
think
hopes up.
Well, one of
I
the
honestly think
one
they
of the
wanted to keep that a
books
secret.
one of the books announced in Phase 3 they said was the search for Bariaga.
They're not going
one
to
of the
kill
one
him
of the
off.
sh-
So,
one of
yeah.
the short stories.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. You're right. One of the insider short stories. You're right.
Yeah.
Yep.
He'll be back, and I think this would be a really cool way because we know that Wookiees live for so long, like, and he's such a beloved character from Phase 1 that you now get to see him hopefully being rescued in Phase 3, and then getting to see him closer to the time of Phantom Menace would be really awesome.
Yeah.
You cannot get my hopes up like that because we'll probably talk about it briefly, but like that panel, like they were teasing that he dead. But I'm ultimately, besides for Nestra, what I'm excited ultimately for the show is to show the final days of when the Jedi were at the highest of their points. They were, the Knights of the Round Table, and that light is now finally starting to go out. We're now starting to see the Sith start to get its chokehold onto the Republic, to the point where Palpatine is able to come in and finish off the deed and to basically almost eradicate all the Jedi. That's what I'm expecting to see, is that all of these books, like by the time, actually Acolyte's going to be coming out in the middle of Phase 3, which is really interesting to see how that all plays out. But when this initial saga of books are done, the initial 3 phases, there'll be 24 books. And to think that going into the Acolyte with those 24 books before it, I really do want to start to see that light, that golden era. It is now starting to fade, and we're going to, like you said, focus on the dark side. And I also wouldn't be surprised if some other High Republic characters show up as well. Some ones that are not human, obviously, but it's exciting to be a High Republic fan right now.
I saw the light go out of Usef's eyes when you said how many novels there were before Acolyte. I saw him just like blank out like crap.
So I had researched this before because I want to do a wish list. I just got tired halfway through adding them to my Audible wish list.
That's fair.
Yeah, and then there's even more announced. So I just gotta
Yeah, so
That's
we've
cool.
so we've got
no, but I do. I'm excited. I swear, like I am properly excited. But I'm definitely gonna drop. There's a lot of other books which I wanted to read. I'm gonna drop them. So just priorities. Get my priorities straight.
Oh yeah, and I've told Usef also to go into the High Republic and get attached to as many characters emotionally as you can. I've given him some really good advice there, guys.
Give it
make sure you get emotionally attached to everybody you can. It's gonna pay off. Trust me. It's gonna be okay. Don't worry about it. It'll be all right. So,
Brian. So how about this next? So I'm targeting. So Ramadan comes to an end next week, and I'm gonna have like a proper week off. So I want to start a High Republic book then, in that holiday. At least one, if not 2.
You've read
How
Light
about
of the
next
Jedi,
episode?
right?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. Light of the Jedi is the first one.
No, I bought it. I just
okay.
I bought it. I just haven't read it, so it's on my Audible. I want to do like a proper. Let's do a proper list and just publish it throughout the week or something. Me and JG and Steven, and we can just actually think about what we've said, and then maybe if you guys want, we could do like a whole reaction video thing where you're like, Usef, how do you feel now? Okay. Not so good.
Emotional damage. That's all it's gonna be. So
okay, gotcha.
Yeah, we could definitely do. I want to, that'd be fun to do, to get somebody fresh on the High Republic reading it for the first time and kind of getting their take as we go.
This is the only thing I really add to this podcast, because everybody knows so much more than I do anyway.
It's not the only thing you add.
Yeah, I just like evil stuff too. Like that's
nothing wrong with that. But speaking of High Republic, we also got the Phase 3 announcements for the novels. The third phase is going to be called Trials of the Jedi. There's a massive list of books and short stories that goes with this. Obviously, it's like JG said earlier, how many books we're going to have by the time Acolyte comes out. It's going to be ridiculous. And so they've got these books out. They didn't really touch a whole lot on those, obviously, and it's kind of hard to talk about those books if you've never read the other 2 phases. You know what I mean? And so it's if you're all caught up, Phase 3 is coming. And so it seems like that they're going to be going back to the original time period.
After where Phase 1 ended.
Right, the Fallen Star and all of that and everything. So, which is kind of what I figured they were going to do. As soon as they said Phase 2 was prequel stuff, they were basically Star Warsing it. They were doing the original prequels and sequels. And so that's kind of what they're doing with this too. So, and then Star Wars Visions Volume 2, the trailer was released for that. I actually just watched it last night with Kirsty, 2 nights ago. And pretty good trailer, for something that's not even really considered canon. It's something that they're putting a lot of effort into, and then there's a lot of love for it, and there's a lot of support for it. What are you guys looking forward to in Visions Volume 2 that, based off of what we saw in Volume 1 in the first season, what are you guys looking forward to in this season?
I'm just excited for just a new take on Star Wars. Like we know like the imagery and the things that we all love, and so I'm just excited for people to have fun with it and be able to put their world, culture, perspective. We could see Star Wars through their lens, because we're so used to it being, from what we've seen and through all the creators, and not being able to give it to so many different people around the world. Like it's gonna be so cool to see it through a different perspective and such. My one hope is that there is another great song like Tatooine Rhapsody. I need some great music to just pop out to. But it looks fun. It looks exciting. It's not like my most anticipated or anything, but it's just a good, fresh breath of air for Star Wars.
Yeah, the trailer looks good. I like the creativity of it. I like the different takes. I'm a really big, like I said, focus on canon, so it's less of a priority for me. I hate to say it that way, but it's still something I'm looking forward to, celebrating May the 4th by binging this. Thanks for reminding it comes out then. I forgot about that.
Yeah, no, with it not being canon, because they even did a novel based off of one of them in the first season, Ronin, and I never read Ronin just because it wasn't canon.
It's a book.
It's a book.
It's wild.
You
wild.
read it, yeah. So, but that book just proves a point, something that I've been saying for a long time. And last week I got a question about Legends and canon. Why can't they keep doing Legends novels? They did. Ronin's a Legends novel. No, don't do this to me. Don't do this to me.
Read the book. It's not canon and it's not Legends.
It's just its own kind of thing.
I will not say anything more, but it's a book you need to read and experience.
It still shows that they could do Star Wars books that aren't connected to anything.
Yes, I will give you that. I would not
throw,
call it Legends.
That you could throw, a different banner on, or Elseworld, or whatever, something like that.
Yeah.
Because I have the comic, too, they did for it, where Mace Windu, he fights Mace Windu, and they allude very heavily that it's Mace Windu, and he's got Windu's saber. So, and it's old, grizzled, and he's like, so you could tell all these different stories. There's no reason why. But anyway, I digress. Usef, have you watched the first season of Visions, right? What are you what are you looking forward to in this one?
Yeah, so I love I love the samurai effect of it.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to see a little bit more of that. I want to see some more. Visions gave me a new world to look into. It was so cool. It was really different, and that's what they promised us, and that's what I got. So I love it, and I want to read this book you guys just talked about. So yeah, I want to read that. It's amazing.
It's a good read. It's probably the most unique Star Wars book that you will ever read. And
is there an illustrated version?
There isn't. I will also say that if you don't know the ending, do not let that be spoiled. Do not even look about it. Don't even Google Ronin.
No.
Just read the book. Experience what you're going to experience.
Right.
And just, the author is actually getting a short story. Has a short story in the Return of the Jedi from a certain point of view.
Oh, really?
So they are getting to write proper canon.
See,
Miyako.
And like dabbling in stories that aren't actually canon is a really good way to cut your teeth and show what you've got to write Star Wars, so that you could maybe get brought in to do a canon novel. You know what I mean? So. Yeah. They should definitely keep doing that, man. Write books that aren't canon. Give comics that aren't canon. Do it. There's a market for it. There's an audience for it. Do it.
Especially this way. This was so out of the box, so it gave them this. They should get the courage to do more of it. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
My hopes is that with each season of Visions, because it's not going to stop with season 2, we're going to keep getting more.
Oh yeah.
My hope is that each season they greenlit like one of the shorts to get a book. Because I think that's just like a cool tradition that they could do. And it also just continues to build out that world.
Have you guys watched Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix?
Of course. That's one of my favorite things.
I knew Usef would have seen it.
Unbelievable.
Visions is basically Love, Death, and Robots for Star Wars. It's exactly what it is.
Star Wars Visions Ronin on Audible. Thank you.
Did you really? Attaboy, good job.
Let me screenshot this right now.
I'm gonna. You guys, look. If Usef comes back and says that this book is just baller, I'm gonna have to suck it up and read a book that's not canon. I'm gonna have to give it a shot. Not that I don't trust you, JG. It's not that. But if I get 2 people coming at me telling me this thing needs to be read, so I'm trust me. I'm taking your opinion. I'm duly noting it right now. I promise you.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see what Usef says too. Yes, I want to
go into Blake.
I want to see what happens with it. And then the final thing I wanted to talk about real quick, we've been going for almost 2.5 hours. The final thing, Celebration 2025, will be held in Japan. I think we were all expecting, stateside, but JG the night before was like dropping bombs in the chat, and he's like, guys, that's not what I'm hearing. And I'm like, you shut up. I don't be doing this to me, man, because we were planning on everybody kind of trying to meet up there for the first time and all going, and we still can on the first one that's going to be stateside, because most of us live here in the States. We'll have to figure out a way to get Usef and Jay over here, and if I have to buy plane tickets, I'll buy plane tickets to get everybody over here for this, because
I'll have to sneak in someone's luggage if I have to.
I'll fly and get you. I'll come get you, man. It's okay. Yes. I'll come get you. I'll come get you.
63 military planes.
But we need to get everybody together, because it'd be really cool for all of us to be able to go to a celebration together.
We would. 100%.
And obviously go do the big stuff together, but then spread out and go check out different things and come back and report. And even do an episode of the podcast from the hotel. That'd be a lot of fun. All of us together. I think that'd be an absolute blast. And I know Usef's gonna want to drink with me, and I'm gonna want to drink with Usef. So that's probably gonna happen too. So. Yes, a celebration is going to be held in Japan this year. Is anybody here going to try to make it? No. Steven's just like, nah. Hard
it's a
no.
dream, I hope.
I looked into flights. Does that count?
You did more than I did, because as soon as they said Japan, I was like, I'm out. I'm not even going to try.
Yeah. I said the horrific thing before that announcement, and I've been saying it, that I said I would never miss another celebration. I'll never miss another celebration.
You jinxed it, man.
And then they announced Japan, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna. When I first heard the news, I was definitely like extremely devastated, because then I did find out the night before that it was gonna be in Japan. And I was like, oh well, that was not what I was being told like last October when I first was told it was gonna be in Orlando. And so then hearing that it was Japan, I was like, well, that kind of sucks. And it was like completely just deflation, because I contribute with Houtini, and a lot of us were all expecting Orlando as well, which is like just the air got sucked out of the room. And yeah, I don't know. It's 2 years away, so that's some optimism. Like I said earlier, I'm a glass full kind of guy, so we'll see. Flights. if I fly out of the West Coast, it's $900. If I fly out of the East Coast, it's like $1,600. So, we'll see.
What the heck?
We'll see.
Is that cost of round trip or just one way?
Round trip.
Round trip, yeah. Just
Okay.
checking.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And also the 900 is me getting from me to Seattle to Japan is 900 total.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
So if that's the case, that's how I would do it. Which actually England would have been about $850. So I mean, it's not much more expensive.
Plus
than
you've got
that.
Plus you've got your 4-day pass on top of that, and hotel.
About 200. But
Yeah.
also apparently staying in Japan, especially Tokyo and such, is actually like really cheap and affordable.
Really?
Obviously it'll go up whenever we get closer to the event. But I mean, right now you could actually get a hotel in like Tokyo for like $70 a night.
Dang.
Yeah.
Dang, man. I'm hoping, because I was talking to John Mark Tolley, who does War of the Stars, a Star Wars podcast, and I've done some stuff with him in the past, and we used to be in a group together, and he was telling me he was really hoping it was going to be in Chicago. He lives in Illinois, so he was really hoping it was going to be Chicago, and I was like, don't worry, man, I'm just as disappointed as you are. I was like, because Kirsty and I, we were already trying to plan everything out, and I was like, Jensen's gonna be old enough to kind of be able to go and to experience it and to remember it and appreciate it, and stuff. But if we have to wait another year, that's fine. We can all go meet up at Disney World if we have to. We'll go to Galaxy's Edge together. I think that'd be a lot of fun too. So, but anyway, that's everything. We've been going for 2.5 hours. I know it's awful late where Usef's at. I know he's not gonna get to eat anything. I'm sorry, buddy.
It's 4:30. No, it's all right.
4:30. Jeez, man.
Sleep. So tomorrow, Friday, is kind of like our Sunday, so I've got the day off. I'm working on my home though, so I'm like, hopefully me and my wife are hoping to move in before the summer.
Right.
So I've got a lot to do just after prayers and stuff. Noon. I was
You're
hoping
the MVP,
would keep going
Usef.
long enough for some sunrise to show.
Yeah.
Show you how far into the future I am over here. But no, it doesn't look like it. Looks like another half hour to sunrise. So.
That's dedication, man. Because as soon as we're done, I'm probably gonna pass out.
Mhm.
I'm not
gonna
even
do the same shit.
Yeah.
I was just hoping to show you some sunrise, but yeah.
right.
It happened once,
See, and it's
like, a
later for
year ago.
everybody in the group right now, than it is for me. I'm the earliest one right now, and so I'm tired. I'm ready to go to bed, dude. So I can't imagine how y'all feel. So, guys, anything else you want to add before we sign off and let the good folks go back to whatever they were doing before we decided to ruin their night
or their weekend.
or their weekend? Yeah.
I think JG and I are gonna kind of get back on the mic for some Marvel cast. So if you guys ever want to join us, please do
Sweet.
so. I know Usef, you and I have been trying to find a time to get together and add you to talk some things about Moon Knight or Miss Marvel. But yeah, hopefully we'll keep doing that. We like being a part of the network, and any chance we can jump on here with you guys, it's always great to talk about Star Wars. That's where all of our loves first started for
Mhm.
cinematic universes, franchises. So thank you
How
for
we
including
met.
us tonight
How
too.
we all met.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, yeah, if we got nothing else to add, man, I think we're going to sign off. So, guys, make sure to check us out next week as well. And I think we're all going to bed. So, until next time, guys, signing off. May the Force be with you all. You've just Star Wars Canon Podcast. I'm Brian Miller, joined by my co-host, Usef Waly. You can stream new episodes of the podcast every Saturday night at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Anchor.fm, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. If you'd like to support the show, you can do so at patreon.com/1138productions. Be sure to like and subscribe on whichever platform you're listening in on. If you'd like to get a question on the show, you can send it in to us at starwarscanonpodcast@gmail.com. Until next week, keep it civil, and may the Force be with you.